Chapter 632. What? Change back? No way. Yi Hongyi's reaction was clearly stronger than Gue Wu had expected. She said it was the sect master's idea. It seems like neither Yao Moan nor Yi Junqing believed that she was Yao Maxin. She felt that there was no point in staying, so. Gue Wu said truthfully. Idiot. Idiot. I left her at the Holy Maiden residence to observe Yao Moan and Yi Junqing's movements. It doesn't matter whether they believe her or not. This woman can't be left alive. Yi Hongyi shouted coldly. You're crazy. She's one of the 4 great protectors of the imperial sect. Gue Wu never expected Yi Hongyi to say something like that. Why are you so nervous? You've killed more than 1 or 2 people from the imperial sect, except for her. I'll deal with the sect master and blame her death on Yao Moan. Yi Hongyi's gaze was cold and his voice sounded like it came from the lowest level of hell. Shui Xiu's life or death wasn't important. What was important was that he couldn't tolerate the existence of that face, even if he had to change her skin. Because Shui Xiu knew too much. Yao Moan was sitting in the pavilion in the dead of the night in the Holy Maiden residence. She was thinking about what had happened in the past few days. Nameless corpse was found in the back mountain, Meiji died tragically, and Diao Diao was poisoned. What did all of these lead to? What was Yi Hongyi's scheme? Just at this time, a burst of rumbling sound broke the silence of the night. Yao Moan looked towards the source of the sound and saw that the entire Holy Maiden Manor was suddenly lit up as if it was filled with fireworks. Huge mushroom clouds soared into the sky and blossomed in the night sky, creating a kind of aesthetic feeling. The rumbling sounds rose and fell as the Holy Maiden Manor turned into a pile of rubble. Cough cough. Damn it. Yao Moan covered her mouth as she looked at the mess in front of her. She knew that it was Yi Junqing's work. She knew that he wouldn't just sit and wait for death, but she didn't expect it to be this big. The huge explosion affected the shops and residences around the Holy Maiden residence. The entire east side of the capital was in an uproar. Now that Qi Kanglin and Diao Diao weren't here, Yao Moan wanted to look for Yi Junqing, but she couldn't. She could only watch as thick smoke rose from the Holy Maiden residence. Crap. Junqing. Now that you're here, how is Moan supposed to find you? Yao Moan slapped her thigh in annoyance. She really hated herself for not revealing her identity earlier. Now that Yi Junqing had escaped, she was the one who had lost the initiative. Amidst the chaos, Yi Junqing and Han Jini disguised themselves. Even if they swaggered down the streets, no one would be able to recognize them. Are you sure that they will lock Yao Moan in the dungeon? Asked Han Jini suspiciously as she looked at the panic-stricken passers-by. The current Yi Junqing was dressed in the uniform of Crimson Flame Nation. His hair had been dyed dark yellow and his eyebrows and eyeliner were heavily drawn. Even if it was broad daylight, it would be very difficult to recognize him, much less the smoke. Even if there isn't, releasing everyone in the dungeon will throw the Crimson Flame Nation into chaos. Stirring up this pool of stagnant water, the conspiracy will surface on its own. What Junqing needs to do now is to throw Crimson Flame Country into chaos. That way, it'll be easier for us to take advantage of the situation. As Yi Junqing spoke, he suddenly took out an exploding rat arrow and threw it. The sounds of explosions rang out continuously behind them. Yi Junqing and Han Jini leaped into the air and headed straight for the dungeon. The dungeon wasn't far from the Holy Maiden Manor. When they saw the smoke billowing in the direction of the Holy Maiden Manor, the guards turned pale with fright. At this moment, a general was about to transfer the soldiers guarding the dungeon to the Holy Maiden Manor when they suddenly heard the sounds of explosions getting closer and closer. A cloud of thick smoke rolled over like a huge black dragon. As the guards turned pale with fright, Yi Junqing and Han Jini had already rushed into the dungeon. They tore down the door as soon as they saw it. Although the prisoners inside were also in a panic, when they saw the door was wide open, they immediately rushed out with all their might. Most of the prisoners here were foreigners. They knew that they would undoubtedly die if they entered here. The hope of survival made them abandon all fear and rush to the entrance of the dungeon. The guards gradually couldn't hold on any longer and some prisoners had already escaped. Even after searching all the cells, Yi Junqing and Han Jini didn't find Yao Mo Wan's figure. This was an unexpected harvest. King Qi. King Xia. In the last cell, Yi Junqing unexpectedly saw Feng Yihan and Di Feng, who had been locked up here for half a year. It really is a small world. To think that I would actually see you guys here. While Di Feng was pleasantly surprised, Yi Junqing and Han Jini respectively cut off the iron chains on Feng Yihan and Di Feng's hands. Why are you guys here? Feng Yihan looked towards Yi Junqing suspiciously. It's hard to explain in a few words. Let's leave this place first, then take our time to think about it. Now wasn't the time to reminisce. After Yi Junqing rescued Feng Yihan and Di Feng, the four of them blended in with the prisoners and quickly rushed out of the dungeon. They headed towards the place Yi Junqing had already prepared. After a night of clamor, the Holy Maiden Manor, the dungeon, and the surrounding streets had already changed beyond recognition. This matter very quickly reached Sikong Mu's ears. At this time, Sikong Mu, who had just finished forcing the poison out of Diao Diao, was sitting on a stone bench in the peach garden. The golden mask blocked all the emotions on his face. Who reported this matter? The first thing Sikong Mu asked wasn't the life and death of Yao Mo Wan and Yi Junqing. He also didn't care whether Feng Yihan and Di Feng had escaped or not. This caused Qi Kanglin to be a bit surprised. It's a routine matter of the Ministry of Justice. They sent in a report this morning, replied Qi Kanglin truthfully. It's actually not Dingjiu. Why isn't it Dingjiu? Kanglin. Hurry to the dungeon and find Dingjiu for this sect master. It's fine if he's dead, but if he's alive, you must bring him to the main altar, ordered Sikong Mu sternly. Qi Kanglin didn't hesitate and turned to leave the peach garden. Imperial Palace, Imperial Study. If we guessed correctly, Sikong Mu is definitely looking for Dingjiu's whereabouts. Yi Hongyi. You must kill him before Sikong Mu finds Dingjiu. In front of the dragon desk, Qi Chuan looked towards Yi Hongyi angrily. Your Majesty, Dingjiu is no longer Dingjiu. Is he one of us now? Yi Hongyi pretended to be confused as he looked towards Qi Chuan. You still have the face to mention this matter. Yesterday, when something happened in the dungeon, I told you to remind Dingjiu to report this matter to Sikong Mu. Now that this matter has been reported by the Ministry of Justice, Sikong Mu will definitely be suspicious. If Dingjiu is captured by him, this matter will be troublesome. Qi Chuan looked towards Yi Hongyi angrily. It's Hongyi's negligence. Yi Hongyi hadn't been negligent, he had done it on purpose. Now that Sikong Mu was circulating his power to expel the poison from Diao Diao, his power was greatly damaged. He definitely had a chance of winning this battle. Unfortunately, Qi Chuan was a bit too cowardly, actually waiting for Sikong Mu to enter seclusion before he was willing to make a move. Since Qi Chuan didn't dare, he gave Qi Chuan a push. Remember, you must create the scene of Dingjiu dying from the explosion. Qi Chuan still couldn't bear to part with Yi Hongyi, his right-hand man. Otherwise, if Yi Hongyi made such a mistake, he definitely wouldn't let him live. In order to not let Qi Chuan suspect him, Yi Hongyi did as Qi Chuan said and found Dingjiu first in the dungeon. However, he deliberately stabbed him to death with a dagger. After about 2 hours, Qi Kanglin also found Dingjiu. When Qi Kanglin brought the already dead Dingjiu in front of Sikong Mu immediately saw through the clues. Sect Master, Kanglin has investigated. Dingjiu died under a dagger, and it was only 2 hours ago. Could it be that Qi Chuan discovered his identity and made the first move to gain the upper hand? Qi Kanglin threw Dingjiu's corpse on the ground and voiced his thoughts. With Qi Chuan's guts, he wouldn't dare to so brazenly provoke us. The one who killed Ding Jiao is someone else, and this person's intention is to force Qi Chuan to overthrow the imperial sect. This sect master has never feared Qi Chuan's little tricks, but who could be the person encouraging Qi Chuan from behind? Sikong Mu questioned coldly. Chapter 633. During the 20 years of peaceful coexistence with Qi Chuan, how could Sikong Mu not know that Qi Chuan was always thinking of rebelling against him? But every time, as long as Qi Chuan had the slightest bit of momentum, Sikong Mu would use thunderous methods to suppress that momentum. Over the past 20 years, Sikong Mu had never failed. Just like this time, he clearly knew that Qi Chuan had secretly replaced his spy in the imperial court. He even knew Ding Jiao's true colors like the back of his hand. He even believed that with Qi Chuan's personality, he would definitely not let Ding Jiao expose himself at this time. That was why he was suspicious of Ding Jiao's abnormality. Kanglin will go investigate right now. Sikong Mu's words enlightened Shi Kanglin. No need, your mission is to find Yi Junqing, Han Jini, Di Feng, and Feng Yihan. As a last resort, you can expose Yao Moen's true identity. As for that fellow hiding behind Qi Chuan and trying to cause conflict between the imperial sect and the court, this sect master will personally investigate. Also, Diao Diao is already fine. Her eyes will recover in half a month at most. Bring Diao Diao back. These past few days, she's been clamoring to see Yao Moen. When Diao Diao was mentioned, Sikong Mu's voice gradually softened. Kanglin obeys. Qi Kanglin knew that Sikong Mu valued Diao Diao, but he didn't know that Sikong Mu was willing to use up most of his strength for her. Now that Sikong Mu's internal energy was severely depleted, even he could easily subdue him. Because of Yi Junqing's ruckus, Holy Maiden Manor had been completely razed to the ground. Yao Moen could only follow Qi Kanglin to the newly built sacrificial manor. Diao Diao was also brought back by Qi Kanglin. After settling Diao Diao down, Qi Kanglin gave Yao Moen a few instructions before leaving. Although Yi Junqing had rescued Feng Yihan and Di Feng from the dungeon, it had happened around 5 in the evening. The next day, in order to prevent Yi Junqing and the others from leaving the capital, Qi Chuan ordered the city gates to be closed and the entire city searched. In Qi Kanglin's opinion, Yi Junqing and the others were definitely still in the capital. After Qi Kanglin left, Yao Moen stayed by Diao Diao's side. Although Diao Diao was fine and her internal energy was recovering, she still couldn't see. Who poisoned her? If Moen finds out, she'll definitely be torn to shreds. When she saw Diao Diao's hands fumbling in the air, she hurriedly stepped forward and grabbed Diao Diao's jade fingers. You're right. Being merciful to one's enemy is being cruel to oneself. That damned fantasy vine. She actually poisoned me while I was off guard. Don't let her fall into my hands. Kill her. Diao Diao cursed. Are you sure it's illusionary vine? Asked Yao Moen with a frown. Other than her, who would dare? Diao Diao growled through gritted teeth. If Huan Luo wants to kill you, then that means she doesn't have any respect for your master. As the holy maiden of the imperial sect, if she doesn't have any respect for the sect master, what does that mean? Yao Moen thought about it several times, but she still felt that there were too many suspicious things about Huan Luo. Betray the imperial sect. It can't be, right? How could she dare? Diao Diao heard the meaning behind Yao Moen's words and her voice was filled with disbelief. After all, in the Red Flame Nation, becoming the imperial sect saintess was everyone's dream. She even dared to poison you, so why wouldn't she dare? Let's think about the worst. If that's the case, then we'll be mentally prepared. If that's not the case, then there's no harm in being prepared, said Yao Moen solemnly. But what right does she have to betray the imperial sect? In the Red Flame Nation, without the protection of the imperial sect, she has no place to stand. Diao Diao believed Yao Moen, but there were some details she didn't understand. Don't forget, other than Sikongmu, there's also Chi Chuan in the Red Flame Nation. As the ruler, who would be willing to submit to someone else? Chi Chuan is no exception. When Yao Moen recalled how timid Chi Chuan had been, she sighed inwardly. She'd been in the imperial family for more than a decade, so why hadn't she understood at the time? It can't be. Chi Chuan has always worshipped master like a god. Yao Moen thought that Diao Diao was still too naive under Sikongmu's protection. Let's not talk about this for now. Let your eyes recover first. Also, even if this was done by Huan Luo, we don't have any proof. Yao Moen didn't want to argue with Diao Diao. Yao Moen. Diao Diao heard that Yi Junqing escaped. That genie. Diao Diao wanted to say something but stopped. Her jade-like cheeks instantly flushed red. They ran together. Yao Moen's voice was a bit helpless. Yao Moen could clearly see Diao Diao's lips curl into a pout. I hope they can escape, otherwise it would be terrible if they were caught. Diao Diao's words moved Yao Moen inexplicably. She clearly couldn't bear to part with Han Genie, yet she didn't want him to return. The city gates are sealed, so they can't escape. Also, even if they could leave, Han Genie wouldn't be willing. That hashtag is unconscious. Han Genie personally told Moen that in this life, he definitely won't betray you. Yao Moen's every word was incomparably clear. When Diao Diao heard this, her lifeless eyes flickered and tears rolled down without any warning. You're lying. He wouldn't say something like that. The one he likes, has always been you. Diao Diao cried very sadly. She thought that Yao Moen was saying this to make her happy, but she didn't realize that these words were the most hurtful. Moen thought that you were crying tears of joy, but it turns out that you didn't believe me. Forget it, if you see Han Genie again in the future, just listen to him personally. Yao Moen slowly sat down next to Diao Diao and lightly tucked a strand of hair that was stuck to her cheek behind her ear. There was a trace of affection in her eyes. As she looked at Diao Diao, the image of Ting Yu's petite and cute appearance suddenly appeared in Yao Moen's mind. Because of her momentary carelessness, Yi Hongyi had escaped from death and caused Ting Yu to lose her life. Yao Moen could even imagine how much pain Ting Yu must have felt at the moment of her death. Yi Hongyi, Moen will prove to you that your rebirth was just to die a more miserable death. When he saw that everyone was in a state of panic, Yi Junqing took out the long mirror and sealed the mechanism. It seems that we won't be able to escape for a while, said Feng Yihan solemnly as an extremely cold light flashed through his eyes. The rations here can last the four of us for a month. Yi Junqing turned and sat down at the table. At this time, they were sitting in a secret room under an abandoned residence. The secret room was made of stone and was extremely soundproof. There was a curved copper mirror on the wall of the secret room that allowed them to see the situation outside at any time. Earlier, Yi Junqing had used this to observe the movements of Crimson Flame Nation's capital. I didn't think that you would suffer so much just to find Yao Moen. If Moen knew of King Chu's sacrifice, she would definitely be extremely grateful. Yi Junqing gave a rough account of his search for Yao Moen, including everything that had happened in Xinxiang and Shiwu town. For a moment, Feng Yihan asked himself if he could do this for Yao Moen. Junqing doesn't have any other requests. I just hope that Moen is safe. Let's first settle down here and secretly gather some information on Crimson Flame Nation. The battle between Eastern Continent and Crimson Flame Nation is unavoidable. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will always be victorious. Yi Junqing restrained the worry in his eyes and spoke calmly. Everyone felt that Yi Junqing's words were reasonable. Thus, in the next 10 days, the four of them changed into all sorts of strange clothes that Yi Junqing had prepared beforehand and wandered around Crimson Flame Nation's capital without anyone noticing. The night was deep and serene. The crescent moon was like a bow and the stars twined around it. The night sky was beautiful and illusory. It was like the first appearance of a heavenly palace. Diao Diao lay on the windowsill with her head pressed against her arm as she quietly enjoyed the night wind. When she got tired, she turned to return to the bed, but she accidentally tripped over a stool and fell over. Careful! Han Genie couldn't hold himself back in the end and rushed forward to steady Diao Diao. Han Genie? Is that you? The familiar voice struck Diao Diao's heart and she was overjoyed. Han Genie didn't want to say anything, but Diao Diao grabbed his arm tightly and wouldn't let go no matter what. Chapter 634. Say something. Is it you? Warner is the worst. She said that you like me and that if I can come back alive, you definitely won't betray me. How could that be something you said? Diao Diao knows best who you like. Han Genie. Diao Diao really doesn't care about anything in return, she just wants you to be safe. There were tears in Diao Diao's eyes. The sparkling and translucent teardrops were like dewdrops after rain. Under the illumination of the candlelight, they emitted a rainbow glow. The faint light stung Han Genie's eyes. You should stay. The most dangerous place is also the safest place. At worst, Diao Diao won't let anyone in from now on. Right now, there are people trying to capture you all everywhere. If you leave just like this, Diao Diao's afraid. Diao Diao kept talking. She was afraid that if she stopped, Han Genie would leave. Genie definitely won't betray you in this life. Han Genie didn't wait for Diao Diao to finish speaking before pulling her into his embrace. His lips curved into a smile of relief. He had put his heart and soul into Yao Moan, but when he saw Yi Juanqing's persistent and resolute gaze, he knew that in this life, he was destined to have no fate with Yao Moan. As for his past obsession, he didn't regret it. That was enough. What did you say? Diao Diao covered her mouth in shock as her tears fell to the ground. Genie wishes to obtain one person's heart in this life. No matter who Genie has loved in the past, from now on, Genie wishes to seal everything away and only keep you in my heart. Han Genie had always felt that compared to Yan Nansheng and the others, he was a boorish person who couldn't say mushy sweet words. But now, Han Genie was really provoked by his own words and had goosebumps all over. Really? You like Diao Diao? Diao Diao's tears formed a string and gushed out like a fountain. She had never expected Han Genie's love because she knew that she would not be disappointed if there was no hope. But at this moment, happiness fell from the sky, like a big piece of pie smashing into her, making her dizzy. It's not like, it's love. Genie really is a womanizer. Originally, you were still solemnly swearing that you loved Yao Moan, but now you've changed your affections. Diao Diao, will you dislike Genie? Han Genie suddenly realized that saying sweet nothings wasn't that hard to learn. I won't, because from now on, Diao Diao will dig out your heart and place it with me. If you want to spend it, you have to have the heart. Diao Diao smiled through her tears and threw herself into Han Genie's embrace. Don't worry, Genie is not that kind of person. From now on, there will only be one woman by Genie's side. There will only be one madam of the city lord in Wanhuang City, and that person is called Diao Diao. Han Genie emotionally stroked the tears at the corner of Diao Diao's eyes. His voice was incomparably firm. Ever since Yi Junqing disappeared, Yi Hengyi felt like he was being followed wherever he went. When he returned to the Yi residence in particular, he couldn't even sleep well. It was true that he didn't fear Yi Junqing at all with his current martial arts, but that feeling made him very uncomfortable. Who is it? Yi Hengyi was just about to fall asleep when he suddenly heard footsteps on the roof. Yi Hengyi's drowsiness was instantly gone. He grabbed the sword by Genie's pillow and broke through the window. Yi Hengyi chased after the person until he reached the forest in the back of the mountain. You're an imperial disciple. Using the moonlight, Yi Hengyi could clearly see the lotus mark on the left shoulder of the black-clothed person. That person didn't say anything and turned around to escape. However, Yi Hengyi's sword chi had already arrived, so the black-clothed person had no choice but to block it. After a few exchanges, the black-clothed person was clearly at a disadvantage. Why are you in my residence? Who sent you? Yi Hongyi roared fiercely. The sharp sword in his hand stabbed into the right side of the black-clothed person's chest. The black-clothed person retreated several steps in pain. His eyes were filled with fear. Not talking. Yi Hongyi leaped onto the black-clothed person and pressed his knee against the black-clothed person's throat. His voice was filled with ruthlessness. The black-clothed person knew that the situation was bad. He immediately bit the poison in his mouth and stopped breathing. Damn it! Seeing the black-clothed person breathe his last, Yi Hongyi flew into a rage. His palm spat fire as he grabbed the black-clothed person's skull. A moment later, the black-clothed person turned into a ball of fire. After the smoke dissipated, only a pile of ash was left. In the dark night, Yi Hongyi held his sword and stood there motionlessly like a ghost. His heart was beating wildly. It had been 4 days since Ding Jiao had been brought back to the headquarters by Qi Kanglan. Logically, Sikong Mu should have guessed that Qi Chuan was up to no good. Even if he didn't act, he should have taken action. However, in these 4 days, Sikong Mu's side had been unusually calm. Qi Chuan hadn't discovered anything strange. Instead, an imperial disciple had appeared in his residence. What did this mean? The more Yi Hongyi thought about it, the more afraid he became. Could it be that Sikong Mu was suspecting him? How was that possible? Everything he did was flawless, so he shouldn't have suspected him. Yet, the black-clothed person in front of him had no explanation. Passing by. Only a ghost would believe that. Perhaps it was time for him to take action. At the very least, he should find out whether or not Sikong Mu was suspecting him. When Yi Hongyi returned to his residence, Huan Luo was already sitting in his room at some point. Huan Luo is truly curious. What does a man with no roots do when he goes out late at night? Huan Luo's mockery didn't anger Yi Hongyi. On the contrary, Yi Hongyi laughed lightly. Lord Holy Maiden must have an important matter for you to visit so late at night? It wasn't that Yi Hongyi didn't care about Huan Luo's disdain. It was just that there was no need for him to get angry at a woman who was about to die. Since Diao Diao didn't die, it means that Sikong Mu forced the poison out of her body. Right now, Sikong Mu's body is weak. Why is Qi Chuan not moving at all like a sissy? Huan Luo put away the disdain in her eyes and questioned coldly. Isn't Lord Holy Maiden asking the wrong person this question? Yi Hongyi calmly sat down at the table and spoke lazily. You're Qi Chuan's most popular dog right now. Would he not tell you what he's doing? Yi Hongyi, if you and Qi Chuan want to do anything to this holy maiden can guarantee that you'll die a horrible death, warned Huan Luo. Lord Holy Maiden is being too serious. Even if Hongyi had all the guts in the world, he wouldn't dare to do anything to Holy Maiden. It's true that Diao Diao didn't die, but who can guarantee that it was because Sikong Mu forced the poison out of her body? If it wasn't for that, Qi Chuan's actions would result in unthinkable consequences. So, Crimson Flame Sovereign wants to test the waters first. If it's really like that, then it wouldn't be too late to make a move, said Yi Hongyi. Test? Who dares? You? Huan Luo raised her brows and looked at Yi Hongyi with disdain. About that. I believe that Crimson Flame Sovereign has his own plans. In reality, Lord Holy Maiden is worrying too much. In the entire Crimson Flame country, the person who wants Sikong Mu to fall the most is Qi Chuan, said Yi Hongyi. Forget it. This Holy Maiden doesn't want to listen to your nonsense. Tell Qi Chuan that he can't miss this opportunity. If he can't grasp it this time, then he can forget about making a comeback for the rest of his life. He should know what kind of person Sikong Mu is. Huan Luo glanced at Yi Hongyi, then turned to leave. Only when Huan Luo's figure disappeared from his line of sight did Yi Hongyi retract the humble respect in his eyes and become frighteningly sinister. Yi Hongyi couldn't fall asleep for the entire night. Whenever he thought of that imperial faction boy, his heart would feel stifled. When the sun rose, Yi Hongyi dressed himself and left Yi Manor, heading straight for the main altar. However, just as Yi Hongyi was about to enter the main altar, he suddenly saw a familiar figure enter the main altar before him. Shui Xiu. Why isn't she dead? The person Yi Hongyi saw was none other than Shui Xiu, who was wearing Yamashin's mask. At this moment, Shui Xiu's figure had already faded from Yi Hongyi's line of sight. Crap! Yi Hongyi knew the situation was bad. He immediately turned around and headed straight for the ghost manor. Why is Shui Xiu still alive? Didn't I tell you to kill her? Yi Hongyi rushed into the ghost manor and grabbed the ghost pestle that had just walked out of the secret room. Chapter 635. You saw Shui Xiu. Where is she? I was supposed to change my skin with Shui Xiu today, but she didn't come. Ghost Pestle looked at Yi Hongyi blankly. His gaze didn't seem to be fake. She didn't come. Shui Xiu entered the headquarters. Logically speaking, even if she had something to say, she would look for me first. Why would she enter the headquarters directly? Did she hear what we said that day? Yi Hongyi was panicking because of the Imperial cult's boy. No way. Ghost Pestle looked at Yi Hongyi in shock. Right at this moment, Yi Hongyi's gaze turned cold. Oh no, someone's here. Ghost Pestle, remember this. If you dare betray me, the matter between you and Huan Luo will be announced to the world. At that time, whether you can live or not isn't important. What's important is that Huan Luo won't have the face to continue living in this world. You understand? After Yi Hongyi warned the Ghost Pestle coldly, he flashed into the Ghost Pestle's secret room. Almost at the same time, Rakshasa appeared in front of Ghost Pestle with over 10 Imperial cult's boys. What are you doing? Ghost Pestle looked at them in panic. He had mixed feelings. Cult Master invites you in, shouted Rakshasa. Before Ghost Pestle could react, one of the boys pulled Ghost Pestle out of the ghost manor. The headquarters was as cold and gloomy as usual. Ghost Pestle knelt in front of the giant python. His body was shaking uncontrollably. Even his teeth were chattering. Gui Pestle, how dare you? A cold voice came from above. The Gui Pestle immediately kowtowed when it heard the voice. Cult Master, Ghost Pestle has always been well-behaved. May I know why you said that? Ghost Pestle buried his head on his knees. His voice was filled with unconcealable fear. Well-behaved? You colluded with Yi Hongyi to sabotage the Imperial cult. You call that well-behaved, said Sikong Mu in a sinister voice. Sikong Mu suspected a total of 10 people for Ding Jiu's death, so he sent out boys to secretly monitor these 10 people. If these people didn't have ulterior motives, even if they discovered the boys, they wouldn't kill them. However, yesterday, only 9 of the 10 boys returned. Only the boy who was monitoring Yi Hongyi didn't return. This meant that the person who betrayed the Imperial cult and caused trouble behind Qi Chuan was Yi Hongyi. Sikong Mu had never expected that Yi Hongyi would be so daring. It seemed like he was tired of living. Yi Hongyi. Why did you say that? Gui Wu looked at Sikong Mu in panic, his eyes full of doubts. What? You want to quibble? The Imperial sect spies in the Imperial court have all been replaced. Now that Gui Daozi isn't in the mansion, everyone in the ghost manor listens to your orders. In addition, the changing technique is exquisite. If you didn't do it yourself, who else could it be? Sikong Mu roared in a low voice. Cult Master is wise. The Ghost Pestle did change his appearance under Yi Hongyi's instructions, but Yi Hongyi told him that it was all your instructions. The reason why Ghost Pestle listens to Yi Hongyi is because he wants to show his loyalty to the Imperial sect, said Ghost Pestle with widened eyes. In reality, the reason Yi Hongyi tried to rope in Ghost Pestle back then was to use the fantasy vine as bait and promise to put in a good word for him in front of Sikong Mu. In the future, if Ghost Daozi wanted to pass his legacy to Sister Ghost, he would at least have a backer. Are you sure? Sikong Mu questioned coldly. In Sikong Mu's eyes, no one in the Crimson Flame Nation would be stupid enough to join Chi Chuan and offend the imperial sect. Therefore, Sikong Mu believed that Ghost Pestle was bewitched. That was why he didn't kill him right away. No matter how bold Ghost Pestle is, he wouldn't dare to go against the imperial sect and cult master. At that moment, Ghost Pestle finally realized that Yi Hongyi had joined Chi Chuan's side. Alright, I'll believe you this once. If I find out that you're lying, you should know how the imperial sect punishes traitors. The other reason Sikong Mu kept Ghost Pestle was to control Ghost Pestle to control the Ghost Manor. After all, Gue Daozi was a cunning person who wasn't easy to control. Ghost Pestle doesn't dare. Ghost Pestle swears loyalty to Cult Master. Ghost Pestle suddenly felt like he had just walked through the gates of hell. His forehead was drenched in cold sweat, and his legs were numb when he stood up. Ghost Pestle rushed into the dark room as soon as he returned to the Ghost Manor and grabbed Yi Hongyi, who was sitting on the chair. You betrayed the imperial sect. Why didn't you tell me? Ghost Pestle roared fiercely. He finally realized that he had been fooled by Yi Hongyi like a monkey. What did Sikong Mu say? Yi Hongyi finally confirmed his guess when he saw Ghost Pestle's bloodshot eyes. What else could he have said? You betrayed the imperial sect. You deserve to die. Ghost Pestle tried to drag Yi Hongyi out. Almost at the same time, Yi Hongyi sealed Ghost Pestle's acupoints. What? You want to hand Hongyi over to claim credit? Ghost Pestle, now that you've come back alive, you must have pushed all the blame to me, right? Sure. You've forgotten all about Hongyi's words. What? You don't care about Huan Luo's life anymore? Yi Hongyi smirked coldly. His eyes were as cold as a blade. You. What are you trying to do? Ghost Pestle snapped back to reality when he heard Huan Luo's name. He glared at Yi Hongyi angrily. What am I trying to do? Ghost Pestle, the woman you love the most, the imperial sect's high and mighty holy lady, is now Chi Chuan's woman. When you handed Hongyi over, you handed Huan Luo over as well. Also, if Huan Luo finds out that you were the one who sullied her chastity that day, do you think she'll hate you for the rest of her life? It won't be enough even if she cuts you into 1,000,000 pieces. Yi Hongyi's words made Ghost Pestle feel like a frosted eggplant. I was foolish. I harmed Huan Luo. Ghost Pestle's eyes were filled with endless remorse. Now is not the time to repent. Ghost Pestle, if you truly love Huan Luo, you should help me and Huan Luo achieve great things. Yi Hongyi continued when he saw Ghost Pestle's expression softening. Huan Luo would never betray Sikong Mu. Are you still trying to lie to me? Ghost Pestle looked at Yi Hongyi coldly and growled through clenched teeth. You're wrong. Huan Luo's loyalty to Sikong Mu is completely dependent on Qi Kanglin's attitude towards her. Right now, Qi Kanglin's mind is filled with Yao Moan and Sikong Mu has allowed Yao Moan to live. How could Huan Luo stand seeing her beloved by another woman's side? Qi Chuan promised Huan Luo that as long as Huan Luo helped him overthrow the imperial sect, he would hand Qi Kanglin and Yao Moan over to her. There's no reason for Huan Luo to refuse such tempting conditions, said Yi Hongyi indifferently. How do you want me to help you? Ghost Pestle finally compromised. He understood Qi Kanglin's position in Huan Luo's heart. That day, Huan Luo kept muttering Qi Kanglin's name. I want you to exchange my face with Qi Chuan's. Yi Hongyi's words were shocking. What? Yi Hongyi, you're dreaming. How could His Majesty possibly exchange his face with you? Ghost Pestle thought that Yi Hongyi was a lunatic. You don't have to worry about that. Hongyi has his own ways. Now that his betrayal of the imperial sect had been exposed, it meant that as soon as he left this secret room, he would be caught and brought to Sikongmu. By then, he would definitely die a horrible death. Yi Hongyi, you want to betray Qi Chuan? Ghost Pestle wasn't stupid. Yi Hongyi was already a public enemy. As soon as he showed himself, he would definitely die. However, Yi Hongyi actually wanted to exchange his face with Qi Chuan. He clearly wanted Qi Chuan's life. No, it's not really betrayal. We've always been using each other. Now that there's no turning back, Hongyi has no choice but to think for himself. As for you, you don't have a choice. Yi Hongyi looked at Ghost Pestle with a sinister smile. Huan Luo belongs to Qi Chuan now. I won't do anything to betray her, said Ghost Pestle angrily. Chapter 636. You're wrong again. Huan Luo and Qi Chuan are using each other. Huan Luo wants to use Qi Chuan to obtain the position of Imperial Sect's leader so that she can personally punish Yao Moan and Qi Kanglin. Qi Chuan wants to use Huan Luo to overthrow Sikongmu. Gue Wu, why don't you think about it? Qi Chuan did everything he could to get rid of Sikongmu. Do you think he would allow another Sikongmu to appear in Crimson Flame Country? In reality, Huan Luo has already been poisoned by Qi Chuan. She's poisoned? What's going on? At this moment, the Ghost Pestle's heart had gone back and forth between the clouds and the bottom of the valley. To put it simply, the antidote to Huan Luo's poison is in my hands. As long as you do as I say, I can guarantee that Huan Luo will live a long life. This is a guarantee that Qi Chuan and Sikongmu can't give you. As Yi Hongyi spoke, he unsealed the Ghost Pestle's acupoints. At that moment, the Ghost Pestle no longer had the courage to rush out. He used silence to express his feelings. In these 5 days, Qi Kanglin used all sorts of methods but still couldn't find where Yi Junqing and the others were hiding. Thus, Sikongmu finally decided to make Yao Moan's identity public and use Yao Moan as bait to lure Yi Junqing out. Sect Master, Kanglin guarantees that he will bring Yi Junqing back within 10 days. Please take back your order. The scene that Qi Kanglin didn't want to see the most appeared. If Yao Mo-wan knew his true identity, what would she think? Back then, he had personally poured the Phoenix Tear into her mouth and erased her memories. Once she found out about this, all of his hopes would go up in flames. Kanglin, this is the first time you've disobeyed my order. Sikongmu's voice suddenly turned cold, and the air in the entire headquarters dropped to the freezing point. If Yao Mo-wan knew everything, she wouldn't be able to continue working for the Imperial Sect. Then Sect Master would lose a powerful chess piece. Qi Tsanglan tried to defend his own selfishness. In the current situation, we no longer need this chess piece. Once we capture Yi Junqing and the others, all of them, including Yao Moan, will die. Said Sikongmu decisively. Sect Master. Kanglin begs you to let Yao Mo-wan go. Hearing this, Qi Kanglin knelt down on one knee and begged. Kanglin, you've fallen in love with Yao Moan? Sikongmu's voice was low and it was hard to tell whether he was happy or angry. Yes. Qi Kanglin didn't deny it, nor did he want to deny it. He definitely wouldn't let go of Yao Moan. Suddenly, a cold light landed on Qi Kanglin's chest. Sikongmu's palm strike mercilessly knocked Qi Kanglin to the ground. Puff, Qi Kanglin could have used his internal force to dissolve it. Even if he was injured, it wouldn't be so serious. Kanglin, you are so silly. Yao Mo-wan isn't a woman you should love. She's just a chess piece to unify the Eastern continent. Sikongmu roared furiously. Kanglin, please grant my wish, Sect Master. Qi Tsanglan knew, he knew from the beginning, but he lost to the words, unable to control himself. That's fine, Yao Moan's identity still needs to be made public. As long as we capture Yi Junqing and the others, this Sect Master will hand Yao Moan over to you. Life or death, it's all up to you. Sikong Mu took a deep breath and said in a stern voice. Sect Master. Before Chi Kanglan could finish speaking, he was interrupted by Sikong Mu. This is this sect master's bottom line. Kanglan, you're on your own. Sikong Mu flicked his sleeve and the figure on top of the python's head disappeared. Under the python, Chi Tsang Lan knelt there blankly, his silver hair moving without any wind. Now that the truth was revealed, how was he going to face Yao Moen? That night, the wind was light and the clouds were light. A few strands of clouds passed by the full moon and the world was hazy. Inside the pavilion, Chi Tsang Lan sat alone on a stone stool. He held a thin glass wine cup in his hand. As the wind rose, Chi Tsang Lan's silver hair swayed in a beautiful arc. Lord Priest is looking for me. Yao Moen walked over gracefully in a light blue robe. The moment Chi Tsang Lan heard the voice, he drained the wine in his cup in one gulp. It was spicy in his mouth and he felt uncomfortable from his throat to his stomach. Sit. Chi Tsang Lan knew that if he didn't follow Sikong Mu's orders, Yao Moen wouldn't even live for 3 days. As if she could see that Chi Tsang Lan was different from before, Yao Moen's eyes flashed and she slowly sat down. Darren drank quite a bit of wine, said Yao Moen worriedly as she looked at the wine jar on the stone table. Wan if this priest and Yi Junqing were on the verge of life and death at the same time, who would you save first? Chi Tsang Lan put down the wine cup, his handsome face slightly rosy from drinking. Why would Lord Priest suddenly ask this question? Yao Moen was slightly surprised and forced out a smile. Answer me. Wan use your heart to answer me. Chi Tsang Lan looked towards Yao Moen with a pleading expression, his voice faintly suffused with desolation. In reality, he knew the answer. At the time, Yao Moen didn't know her identity, but for Yi Junqing, she was still willing to be a hostage. Naturally I would save Lord Priest, said Yao Moen without hesitation. Really? Is this what you really mean? Chi Tsang Lan's dull eyes instantly lit up. He got up and walked in front of Yao Moen to look at her deeply. Yes. No matter who Lord Priest encounters danger at the same time, Wan will definitely save Lord Priest first, said Yao Moen with certainty. Wan Chi Tsang Lan suddenly pulled Yao Moen up and pulled her into his embrace. His exquisite and perfect chin rested on Yao Moen's shoulder as he felt the warmth of this moment. The moment Yao Moen recovered her memories, she knew that it was Chi Tsang Lan who had fed her the last drop of phoenix tear in Guan Osprey Palace, which was why she was in such a situation. Originally, she hated Chi Tsang Lan, but Diao Diao said that it was good that it was Chi Tsang Lan. If it was Huan Luo, she wouldn't have lived until now. In the time they spent together, Yao Moen gradually felt Chi Tsang Lan's feelings towards her. He indulged her again and again, saved her again and again. If Chi Tsang Lan owed her one life, then she owed Chi Tsang Lan far more than just one life. At the moment of life and death, she definitely wouldn't just watch Chi Tsang Lan fall into danger. She would save Chi Tsang Lan first, but if the other person was Yi Junqing, she would choose to die with him. However, Chi Tsang Lan didn't know any of this. Great Priest. Yao Moen was clearly a bit surprised by Chi Tsang Lan's extreme actions. Call me Tsang Lan. Not only did Chi Tsang Lan not let go, he hugged Yao Moen even tighter. Tsang Lan, did something happen? Asked Yao Moen worriedly. She suddenly thought of Yi Junqing. No, nothing will happen. As long as Tsang Lan is alive, you'll be safe. This is Tsang Lan's promise to you. Wan believe in Tsang Lan, I will always be by your side. It doesn't matter if Yi Junqing doesn't exist in this world, I will protect you for the rest of your life. Chi Tsang Lan silently vowed in his heart. In the shadows, Huan Luo clenched her fists tightly as an extreme coldness shot out of her eyes. She hated Chi Tsang Lan, but she hated Yao Moen even more. For Chi Tsang Lan, she had sacrificed more than 20 years of her life, but in the end, she had to watch helplessly as he embraced another woman. As for Yao Moan, this was the beginning of her nightmare. She had destroyed all of her hopes, her happiness. In a single night, it had turned into ashes. Even when Chitsang Lan brought Yao Moan back to her room, Yao Moan still hadn't woken up from her daze. Today, Chitsang Lan was acting too strangely, causing Yao Moan to feel uneasy. Did Chitsang Lan hug you, silly? When Diao Diao pushed open the door and entered, Yao Moan was in the middle of sorting out her thoughts. Diao Diao, I keep feeling that Chitsang Lan is very different today. Did something happen with Sikong Mu? Yao Moan looked towards Diao Diao suspiciously. Chapter 637. I haven't gone out these past few days, how would I know? However, I did hear a piece of great news. I'm sure you'll be happy to hear it. Diao Diao walked to Yao Moan's side happily. What news? Unless it was Yi Juanqing's whereabouts, it was hard for her to smile. Master issued a kill order. If Yi Hongyi is alive, he wants to see his corpse. Diao Diao's words were shocking. How could that be? Doesn't Sikong Mu value Yi Hongyi a lot? This news was as shocking as expected. Yao Moan asked in shock. But this brat wants a foot after being given an inch. He actually joined Qi Chuan. Do you think water got into Yi Hongyi's brain? There's a path to heaven, but he doesn't take it. Instead, he barges into hell, said Diao Diao resentfully. This is great. We can't find Yi Junqing, but now even Yi Hongyi has disappeared. There's also Qi Kanglan. I don't know what he's doing. Yao Moan said helplessly. She slumped back into the chair, her mind a mess. The next day, when the announcement that Xing Waner was Yao Moan was posted on the streets of Crimson Flame Nation's capital, Yao Moan finally understood why Qi Kanglan had acted so strangely last night. Why is it like this? Diao Diao had taken down the announcement and delivered it to Yao Moan early in the morning. So it's like this. They want to use Waner's identity to lure Yi Junqing out. The method is correct, but how are they going to prove that I'm Yao Moan? Said Yao Moan indifferently. There was no proof. When she told Yi Junqing, he only snorted in disdain. Someone came to tell you. At this time, Qi Kanglan was already standing at the door. Diao Diao felt that her presence was very untimely, so she quietly retreated. You saw it? When Qi Kanglan entered, he clearly saw the announcement on the table. It's posted all over the city, it's hard for Waner not to see it. Lord Priest, don't you think you should explain? Yao Moan lifted her brows and looked towards Qi Kanglan coldly. This is the cult master's idea. He wants you to pretend to be Yao Moan and cooperate with Kanglan to capture Yi Junqing. Qi Kanglan didn't have the courage to say the truth. Cooperate? Cooperate how? You and I both know that Yi Junqing wouldn't believe the contents of the announcement. Yao Moan looked towards Qi Kanglan probingly. Kanglan has his own way. You don't need to ask more about this. Get ready. Follow Kanglan to Luoan Street at 2:45 in the afternoon. Qi Kanglan did not explain too much. After giving the order, he turned and left. Looking at Qi Kanglan's back, Yao Mo Wan's shapely eyebrows slightly wrinkled. What was Qi Kanglan's method? Yao Moan was very curious, but she was happy to cooperate. At this time, she also wanted Yi Junqing to know who she really was. Time passed very quickly. Around noon, Yao Mo Wan only changed into a light pink changpao and followed Chitsang Lan out of the priest's manor. Yao Mo Wan and Qi Kanglan were carried by the holy palanquin as they walked in the center. The pedestrians on Luoan Street were split to the left and right. There wasn't even a single stray leaf in the originally busy street. When they reached the busiest part of Luoan Street, the palanquin came to a stop. Yao Moan was supported by two boys out of the palanquin and onto the stage that had been built overnight. Wan how are you going to cooperate? Yao Mo Wan looked towards Qi Kanglin in confusion. It's fine to just sit here. Qi Tsung Lan lightly pulled Yao Mo Wan to sit on a chair, his eyes revealing a faintly discernible sadness. All lies will be exposed, Yao Mo Wan will know the truth one day. His concealment now is only deceiving himself and others. Yao Mo Wan really cooperated. She didn't say anything no matter what Qi Kanglin told her to do. At this time, Qi Kanglin was holding a polished glass ball in front of Yao Mo Wan. Wan look at the glass ball. Don't think about anything. Hypnosis was a technique that allowed people to speak their true feelings even when they weren't aware of it. Qi Kanglin naturally knew that empty words were no proof. However, if Yao Mo Wan could say the truth that only she and Yi Junqing knew, then that would be proof. Wan what do you see? Qi Kanglin's thin lips moved slightly when he saw that Yao Mo Wan's eyes were misty. At this time, under the surveillance of the imperial children, the enormous Luo and street was completely silent. A sea, boundless. Yao Mo Wan's cherry lips moved, her voice ethereal. What's on the other side of the sea? Qi Kanglin slowly guided Yao Mo Wan back to the past. A palace. Yao Mo Wan finally lost her last bit of clarity and reason and sank into a daze. What's it called? Who lives there? Qi Kanglin knew that the time had come, so he cut to the chase. Guan Osprey Palace, inside, are Mo Wan, Yi Junqing, Lu Xing, and Ting Yu. Yao Mo Wan seemed to be muttering to herself as her lips curved slightly. Where are they right now? Qi Kanglin choked. He had no choice but to do this. Lu Xing is dead. Ying Li killed him. Ying Li is also dead. Unfortunately, it wasn't Wan who did it. Yi Hongyi killed his own younger sister with his own hands. Ting Yu. Ting Yu is also dead, it's Yi Hongyi. Yi Hongyi killed Ting Yu. Yi Hongyi. Yao Mo Wan's emotions suddenly became extremely agitated. Qi Kanglin saw that the situation was bad and immediately asked the next question. What about Yi Junqing? You like him? When did it start? Do you love him? This was something only the two of them knew, so besides words of love, what else could it be? Qi Kanglin pursed his lips bitterly. Yi Junqing, in my past life, I owed him too much. I just wanted to return his country, but I unknowingly fell in love. What should I do? Yao Mo Wan's emotions gradually calmed down. The crowd below the stage was still completely silent. No one made the slightest sound. In the crowd, a brown-haired man dressed in mink fur mixed in with the crowd. From time to time, his eyes would glance at Yao Moan on the stage. His heart was in turmoil. You've definitely experienced life and death, right? Qi Kanglin wanted to know the answer, but each answer was like a dagger stabbing into his heart. Hearing the woman he loved narrate her life and death promise with another man was probably the most painful thing in the world. Junqing. Why are you calling me an idiot? I only promised you that I would definitely return. I know that you'll definitely wait for me in Ji province. Stepping over a pile of corpses, anyone would faint from fright. Yao Mo Wan muttered incoherently. At some point, her long eyelashes were covered in tears. Under the sunlight, those sparkling and translucent tears were as resplendent as flowers, piercing Qi Kanglin's eyes. In the crowd, the man wearing the mink fur coat had disappeared. Inside the secret room, Yi Junqing's eyes were like cold stars. His hands were clenched into fists and the veins on his forehead were bulging. He sat there without saying a single word. Junqing, Sheng Wan, can't be Yao Mo Wan. If you had rushed over just now, you would have fallen into Qi Kanglin's trap, said Han Jini solemnly as she looked towards Yi Junqing. Do you still remember how desperate the battle in Ji province was? Yao Mo Wan mobilized Helian Peng's army to save the day. Junqing still remembers how Yao Mo1 rode a horse through the battlefield, stepping over a pile of corpses to rush towards Junqing. Junqing will never forget that scene for the rest of his life. Junqing called her the biggest idiot in the world. She said that Mo1 would return, so Mo1 would definitely return. Afterwards, she even explained that it was because she'd stepped over a pile of corpses, so it wasn't strange that she fainted from fright. Only Mo1 and I know these things, no one else knows. If Shengwan, or isn't Yao Mo1, then how could she know about this? Was it a coincidence? How could there be such a coincidence in this world? Shengwan, is actually Mo1. Why? Why didn't I recognize her? She even made her suffer so many grievances. This won't do. I have to go find Mo1. Yi Junqing ignored Han Jini's obstruction and rushed out, but he was stopped by Di Feng and Feng Yihan. Yi Junqing. Now isn't the time to let emotions affect your decisions. Now that Qi Kanglin has verified that Sheng Wan, is Yao Mo1 in front of everyone, he's trying to lure us out so he can capture us in one fell swoop. If you go out now, forget about saving Yao Mo1, you might not even be able to protect yourself, shouted Di Feng as he grabbed Yi Junqing tightly. Chapter 638. Emperor Xiao's words are reasonable. In reality, we should be glad that Moan didn't die and is still alive. Now that Qi Kanglin didn't hesitate to reveal Moan's identity, it can be seen just how much Sikong Mu and Qi Chuan want to capture us. Qi Kanglin has no other choice but to do this. As long as we endure for a few more days, the situation will definitely take a turn for the better. Junqing, I understand that you want to see Moan, but now isn't the time. Feng Yihan said sincerely. You don't understand. None of you understand. Ever since Moan disappeared, I haven't been able to sleep a single night. I've been calling Moan's name in my head over and over again. I, Yi Junqing, can give up Great Chu, give up the country, give up my life, but I can't lose Moan. Yi Junqing choked with sobs as tears flowed out of his eyes. After a moment of silence, Han Jini finally spoke. If you think that seeing Yao Moan right now is what she wants, then you can go. If you can guarantee that you'll be able to bring Yao Moan back alive after seeing her, then you can go. Han Jini's voice was very soft, but it was like thunder in Yi Junqing's heart. Feng Yihan and Di Feng looked at each other in silence. Now that things had gotten to this point, they could only see Yi Junqing's decision. Yi Junqing's footsteps finally stopped in front of the door. His clenched fists smashed against the stone wall, causing blood to trickle down Yi Junqing's knuckles and flow into his sleeves. Junqing, everyone here hopes that Moan can leave Crimson Flame Country safely with us. For this goal, we must endure. Right now, we're still lacking a bit of saltpeter and sulfur. Once we have enough gunpowder, we'll rescue Moan and escape from Crimson Flame Country together. Is that okay? Han Jini walked behind Yi Junqing. He knew that Yi Junqing's heart was aching right now. He had seen how much pain Yi Junqing had suffered in order to find Yao Moan. However, the more urgent the situation, the more they had to be calm. Why didn't I recognize her? Why did I doubt Moan? She once told me personally that she was Yao Moan, but I didn't believe her. In the end, I was blind. Yi Junqing crouched down in pain. Even a hero like him would cry. It's not your fault. You're too concerned. Junqing, it's just as King Qi said, we're all glad that Moan is still alive. Now that Qi Kanglin had made such a move, Priest Manor was most likely heavily guarded. Even if he wanted to ask Diao Diao about the situation, it would be impossible. The night was deep and serene. Yao Mo1 leaned against the window and looked at the stars in the distance. There was an indescribable loneliness in her heart. You're still awake. Diao Diao pushed the door open and entered. Yao Moan, who was standing by the window, heard the sound and turned around. When she saw that it was Diao Diao, she couldn't help but sigh. I didn't expect Qi Kanglan to actually use hypnosis. What a brilliant method. Once those things that only Junqing and I knew were said, he could immediately distinguish the truth from the falsehood. When Diao Diao repeated everything she said on Luoan Street to her, she knew that Qi Kanglan's move had worked. Now she just hoped that Yi Junqing wouldn't rashly barge into the priest's manor. Moan, now that things have gotten to this point, what do you want to do? Now that everyone knows that you're Yao Moan, they're naturally more guarded against you. I'm afraid that you won't be able to take a step out of the priest's manor unless Qi Kanglan gives the order. Diao Diao slowly walked to Yao Moan's side and spoke in a low voice. Right now, it's not about what Moan should do, it's about you. Diao Diao, I don't care what you do, you have to contact Han Genie and tell him not to act blindly without thinking. Moan will naturally think of a way to get them out of Crimson Flame Country. Yao Moan deliberately lowered her voice as she instructed carefully. You, what are you saying? When Diao Diao heard this, she immediately shifted her gaze and her cheeks flushed red. If you hadn't seen Han Genie, would you be so radiant so quickly? Diao Diao, right now is a matter of life and death for Han Genie and Yi Junqing. If you don't want Han Genie to be captured by Sikong Mu and then cut into pieces, then don't be anxious. Yao Moan threatened. TCH, you only know how to bully people. How could you? Diao Diao mumbled. Just as she was about to open her mouth to retort, she suddenly heard footsteps approaching. Thus, Diao Diao remained silent and looked at Yao Moan meaningfully. Her meaning was, leave this matter to me. By the time Yao Moan understood the meaning in Diao Diao's eyes, Qi Kanglan had already arrived at the door. It seems that it's time for me to disappear again. Diao Diao shrugged and left Yao Moan's room with a giggle. Qi Kanglan only spoke when Diao Diao's footsteps gradually faded away. Can I come in? Qi Kanglan's voice was gentle as he looked towards Yao Moan with slight unease. Yao Moan sat down at the table and picked up a cup of tea. In the time she took a sip, Qi Kanglan had already sat down in front of Yao Moan. Moan hopes that Lord Priest won't ask this kind of question that isn't up to Moan to decide in the future. If Moan refuses, could Lord possibly leave right now? A cold voice slowly spilled out of Yao Moan's cherry lips. It was like an ancient pool without any ripples, causing people to shiver. I'm very sorry for today's matter. Qi Kanglan heard the anger in Yao Moan's voice and said lightly. Lord Priest is only sorry for today's matter. Then what about before? How did Moan lose her memories? How did she arrive in Crimson Flame Country? What if she became Shenwan, her? How did she become Yao Moan now? Doesn't Lord Priest feel that you should give Moan an explanation? Or is it that in Lord Priest's eyes, Moan is nothing more than a lowly commoner who doesn't have the right to know about these things? Yao Moan was very angry, but not because of the past. How could she, Qi Kanglan, hypnotize her in front of everyone? Not everyone wanted to share the secrets in their hearts with everyone else. You're Yao Moan, the woman that Yi Junqing would rather die than give up on. The woman that the entire Eastern continent is looking for. You're the legend of Eastern continent. A single glance of yours, a single action, can change the entire Eastern continent. However, Kanglan always felt that no matter how strong you were still a lowly commoner of Eastern continent. However, it was you, a lowly commoner, that completely changed everything for Kanglan. Because of your existence, the great cause of unification was no longer Kanglan's only belief. For you, Kanglan went against the will of the cult master time and time again, indulged your unreasonable willfulness time and time again. For you, Kanglan could give up his life. Sitting in front of you right now, Kanglan only feels that he's the lowliest. Qi Kanglan's words made Yao Moan feel that she was in the wrong. It was as if she had done some unforgivable crime to the man in front of her. Ahem. Since I already know that I'm Yao Moan, how are you going to deal with me? Lock me up in priest manner for the rest of my life? In the face of Qi Kanglin's affectionate words, Yao Moen finally couldn't take it anymore. Kanglin has never thought about doing anything to you, but right now is a critical time. As long as we capture Yi Junqing and the others, Kanglin will immediately release you from house arrest. After that, no matter where you go, Kanglin will accompany you," said Qi Kanglin with deep affection. "If you guys really manage to capture Yi Junqing, what will happen?" When Yao Moen heard Yi Junqing's name, her heart clenched. "The cult master's will is to kill without mercy," Qi Kanglin answered truthfully. "If Junqing dies, Moen won't live alone." Qi Kanglin knew that Yao Moen wasn't speaking empty words. Back on the warship, he had seen Yao Moen's determination. "No matter what price I have to pay, Kanglin definitely won't let you die. Even if you hate or resent me in the future, that's fine. In this life, Kanglin only asks to be by your side." Moen, Kanglin can't change the situation, but he can change himself. "As long as I complete this mission, Kanglin will ask for sect master's resignation. At that time, I'll take you away from this troublesome place." Qi Kanglin's words caused Yao Mo to be endlessly stunned. She didn't know when, but she had already occupied the entire position in Qi Kanglin's heart. The ambiguous feelings that she once thought had already become an indelible vow. Chapter 639. But Yao Moen was just about to retort when Qi Kanglin suddenly stood up and left. He didn't even give himself a chance to refuse. "Qi Kanglin, you used to be as gentle as jade, but you've also learned to be so domineering?" Inside the headquarters, Huan Luo stood trembling under the huge python. Her throat was dry and her hands were clenched into fists. Ever since she betrayed Sikong Mu, she would feel guilty every time she stood in the headquarters. "I didn't expect Qi Chuan to raise a hidden guard. Qi, Mei, Wang, Liang, their name isn't bad, but I wonder how good their martial arts are. Huan Luo, I'll leave this matter to you. This sect master wants to see where Qi Chuan gets his courage from this time." Sikong Mu's voice was frighteningly cold. "Yes." Huan Luo sighed inwardly, but she was also a bit shocked. She hadn't expected Sikong Mu to be so powerful that he even knew the names of Qi Chuan's hidden guards. After leaving the headquarters, Huan Luo hesitated a bit before heading to the Imperial Garden. After noon, Qi Chuan would definitely take a stroll in the garden. This was his habit. When Huan Luo appeared in the Imperial Garden, Qi Chuan was shocked and immediately dismissed all the attendants. Inside the pavilion, Qi Chuan invited Huan Luo to sit down with a warm expression. "May I ask why Lady Holy Maiden has come to see us?" asked Qi Chuan with a smile. "Sikong Mu already knows about the Qi, Mei, Wang, Liang behind you and wants Huan Luo to get rid of them." Huan Luo got straight to the point. "What? How does he know?" Qi Chuan's eyes flashed as he looked at Huan Luo in disbelief. The Qi, Mei, Wang, Liang were very secretive. There were only 5 people in the entire Crimson Flame country who knew of their existence. Logically speaking, this news shouldn't have reached Sikong Mu's ears. Huan Luo isn't sure, but Sikong Mu has already given the order for Huan Luo to take their heads. "What does your majesty think Huan Luo should do?" Huan Luo looked at Qi Chuan arrogantly with a smile. "The Qi, Mei, Wang, Liang are our left and right arms. They can't be broken. Does Lady Holy Maiden have a better way to ensure their safety?" The fact that Huan Luo was able to sit firmly on the position of Imperial Sect's Holy Maiden was a testament to Huan Luo's martial arts. If they really fought, Qi Chuan really didn't have the confidence to win. Furthermore, Yi Hongyi had warned him that Huan Luo could control sea monsters, so she couldn't die for now. This time, Qi Chuan could only follow the guest's wishes. This time, Huan Luo can compromise, but there's one thing. When your majesty gets what you want in the future, can you also hand Yi Hongyi over to Huan Luo to deal with? Right now, the entire imperial faction was searching for Yi Hongyi's whereabouts, but he seemed to have vanished into thin air. Huan Luo had reason to believe that Qi Chuan had hidden Yi Hongyi. Yi Hongyi. Hello. Qi Chuan was slightly stunned. He had originally thought that Yi Hongyi was hiding with Huan Luo, but now it seemed that Huan Luo was thinking the same thing. Your Majesty, why don't you send the Qi, Mei, Wang, and Liang to fight Huan Luo? Huan Luo will be at a slight disadvantage and let them attack first. Your Majesty should know what to do after that. Huan Luo looked at Qi Chuan meaningfully. Holy Maiden, don't worry. When the time comes, we will naturally have the Qi, Mei, Wang, and Liang hide for a while. We won't make things difficult for Holy Maiden. Qi Chuan's voice was filled with gratitude, but a trace of ruthlessness flashed through his heart. There's no time like the present. Let's do it today. The moment Huan Luo opened her mouth, the white silk in her hand shot towards the top of the pavilion like a silver dragon. As hidden guards, the Qi, Mei, Wang, and Liang were naturally hiding in the shadows, so they heard what was said very clearly. In the next second, the Qi, Mei, Wang, and Liang attacked Huan Luo at the same time. The five of them fought in the air. Your Majesty, are you really planning on handing Hongyi over to Huan Luo to deal with? A sinister voice drifted over from behind him. When Qi Chuan heard it, he was shocked. When he turned around, he saw Yi Hongyi standing in front of him. Yi. Before Qi Chuan could say anything, Yi Hongyi exerted force in his palm and immediately knocked Qi Chuan out. Then, he lifted him up and disappeared. In the forest behind the mountain, when Han Genie appeared in front of Diao Diao, dressed in strange clothes, she almost didn't recognize him. Genie, why are you dressed like this? Diao Diao looked Han Genie up and down as she held back her laughter. Thanks to Qi Kanglan, the entire city is searching for Genie. Genie still feels that it's inappropriate for me to be dressed like this, said Han Genie awkwardly. After all, he had never been in such dire straits in his memory. It's been hard on you guys. Oh right, if you need anything, you can tell me. Diao Diao looked towards Han Genie with heartache. Didn't I ask you out because I needed something? Diao Diao, tell me, that Xingwan, Diao Diao expected that Han Genie would ask this question, so before Han Genie could finish, she cut him off. Xingwan, is Yao Moen, she's never changed. Actually, your intuition back in Xinjiang wasn't wrong. The only mistake was that bastard Huan Luo secretly created Shui Wan, and Yuan, to mess things up. However, you guys were too arbitrary. Even if they look exactly the same, there's still a difference. Diao Diao followed Yao Moen's instructions and revealed everything. So that's how it is. Although he was prepared, Han Genie was still shocked when he heard this news. In the past, they were so close to Yao Moen, but they still missed each other. However, at that time, Yao Moen hadn't recovered her memories yet, so if you had worked a bit harder at that time, perhaps. Muttered Diao Diao when she saw the loneliness in Han Genie's eyes. There's no perhaps, Genie only wants to cherish the person in front of him. Han Genie understood Diao Diao's meaning, but he knew even more clearly that regardless of whether Yao Moen recovered her memories or not, there was no fate between them. Ahem, this sentence is very pleasing. Diao Diao pursed her lips and smiled. Diao Diao, since we know that Sheng Wan, is Yao Moen, in a few days, we want to take Yao Moen and temporarily leave Crimson Flame Country. So, I want to ask you to get us a boat and some necessities for sailing on the sea, said Han Genie bluntly. You guys, want to leave? Hearing this news, Diao Diao's eyes immediately revealed unconcealable grief. Diao Diao, can you leave with us? Han Genie naturally couldn't bear to part with Diao Diao. No. Diao Diao can't leave master, otherwise he'll be sad. Diao Diao shook her head with difficulty. If she didn't have any worries in Crimson Flame country, she definitely would have nodded without hesitation. However, she couldn't betray Master. She was an orphan. If it wasn't for Master, she wouldn't have lived until today. Seeing that Diao Diao's eyes were dim and colorless, Han Genie took a step forward and placed his hands on Diao Diao's snow-white shoulders. Then Genie won't leave with them. I'll stay and accompany you. Han Genie's voice was like the spring breeze and rain, quickly sweeping away the haze in Diao Diao's heart. Genie, are you serious? You're really willing to stay? Even if you don't go back for the rest of your life, you're still willing? Diao Diao raised her eyes emotionally, her eyes brimming with tears. With you accompanying me, this sovereign has really profited. Han Genie extended a slender jade finger and lightly brushed the tears at the corner of Diao Diao's eyes. His thin lips hooked into a faint smile and the light in his eyes was exceptionally resolute. Genie, you're so good. As good as Master. Diao Diao emotionally threw herself into Han Genie's arms and pressed her face tightly against Han Genie's chest, feeling the long-awaited warmth. When Chi Chuan woke up, he only felt a dull pain on his face, and his body was extremely tired. Woo woo. Woo woo woo. Chi Chuan originally wanted to call someone to serve him, but when he opened his mouth, he actually found that he couldn't make a sound. His throat seemed to be stuck by something. You're awake. Along with a gloomy voice, the white cloth covering Chi Chuan's eyes was suddenly torn off. Chi Chuan only felt a glaring light and subconsciously closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, his whole body was stunned in one place, and he was so shocked that he couldn't speak. Chapter 640. What? You don't recognize me anymore? At this moment, the person standing in front of Chi Chuan was another him. He wore a golden dragon robe and a scarlet dragon crown. That face, in particular, was practically identical to his own. Woo! Chi Chuan couldn't speak, but his eyes were filled with bone-chilling coldness. What a pity, this face that looks like a beast has been with Hongyi for so long. Suddenly giving it to Crimson Flame Emperor, Hongyi really can't bear to part with it. The person in front of him was none other than Yi Hongyi. At this moment, Yi Hongyi lazily brought over the copper mirror and placed it in front of Chi Chuan. Woo! Woo! When he saw his own reflection in the copper mirror, Chi Chuan's eyes bulged. He abruptly flung the copper mirror away and got up to charge at Yi Hongyi. Unfortunately, Yi Hongyi didn't give him the chance and promptly sealed Chi Chuan's acupuncture points. Chi Chuan, don't blame Hongyi for being ruthless. It's you who's too cowardly and unruly. From the moment you came out of the Imperial sect's main altar, I advised you to attack the Imperial sect, but you had too many misgivings, being careful left and right. If it wasn't for your cowardice that delayed the opportunity, how could Sikong Mu have had the chance to breathe? Great, he's already discovered that I've sided with you, Chi Chuan. Of all things, you're actually sending people to secretly search for me. Chi Chuan, do you think I don't know what you're thinking? The reason you're searching for me is to protect me? Or do you want to kill me to silence me? Yi Hongyi's cold gaze was like sharp blades stabbing into Chi Chuan's chest, causing him to be filled with regret. Woo! Chi Chuan roared angrily, but his body couldn't move. But Hongyi doesn't blame you. If you don't act for yourself, heaven and earth will destroy you. Just like Hongyi right now. Since this face won't live to see tomorrow, then I might as well change my face and start all over again. Yi Hongyi laughed sinisterly, then casually picked up a cyan-colored glass bottle from the side of the table. Woo! Seeing Yi Hongyi take out a black pill from the glass bottle, Chi Chuan's eyes were filled with fear and hatred. After you die, Hong Yi will naturally bring your corpse to Sikong Mu. Crimson Flame Emperor, don't worry. You've been wanting to kill Sikong Mu day and night. Hong Yi will naturally fulfill this wish for you. This pill is a poison that gathers all the poisons in the world. As long as you eat it, even if you die, your corpse will release a colorless and odorless poison. At that time, Sikongmu will invisibly be poisoned. In less than half a month, he won't be able to reverse the situation. As Yi Hongyi spoke, he stuffed the black pill in his hand into Chi Chuan's mouth. Woo! Chi Chuan's bloodshot eyes widened like copper bells, the veins on his forehead looked like they were about to burst. He never expected that he would be defeated by Yi Hongyi. Don't feel any unwillingness. This is called the winner takes all. Look at Hongyi. Even if Yi Junqing stole my throne, even if Yao Moan poisoned me, even if Gue Daozi castrated me and turned me into a eunuch, even if you, Crimson Flame Emperor, ordered me around like a dog, I've never blamed anyone or anything. The path is walked by oneself. Whoever laughs in the end will depend on their own ability, said Yi Hongyi with a sinister smile. His hand abruptly moved and the pill instantly entered Chi Chuan's mouth. Woo! Woo! Chi Chuan felt as if every pore on his body was being bitten and devoured by a thin snake. That kind of pain was heart-wrenching and indescribable. Next to the stone table, Yi Hongyi coldly watched as Chi Chuan struggled in pain just like how he had been in the past. Fortunately, he had managed to struggle through. The current him had been reborn and had become the Emperor of Crimson Flame Nation. Then Yi Junqing, Yao Moan, how are you going to fight us? Cold laughter suddenly rang out, accompanied by Chi Chuan's hoarse howls of grief. The sound lingered in the air above the secret room for a long time. Only when Chi Chuan's life fell did Gue Wu, who had been guarding outside, walk in while trembling. His Majesty, shut up. We are His Majesty, he's the traitor Yi Hongyi. Yi Hongyi suddenly turned around and looked at Gue Wu sharply. Yi Hongyi, you're practically a madman. Gue Wu looked towards Yi Hongyi angrily. If it wasn't because Yi Hongyi had something on him, Gue Wu wouldn't have done such a crazy thing with him no matter what. That's right. We are a madman. We've been crazy since the day Yao Moan betrayed us. We are now the high and mighty Crimson Flame Emperor. Who in this world dares to fight against us? Yi Hongyi's eyes were bloodshot as he roared fiercely. Gue Wu was speechless. He knew that he couldn't turn back anymore. Even if he continued to argue with Yi Hongyi, he wouldn't be able to change the truth. After leaving the Ghost Palace, Yi Hongyi used his face to successfully deceive the Qi, Mei, and Wang Liang and poisoned the four of them to death in the most ruthless way. When Yi Hongyi appeared at the headquarters with Chi Chuan and the Qi, Mei, and Wang Liang's corpses, not only Huan Luo, but even Sikongmu was very surprised. Crimson Flame Emperor Chi Chuan has personally come to the headquarters today to offer a humble apology. I hope that sect leader will forgive Chi Chuan for the sake of his many years of dedication to Crimson Flame country. At this moment, Yi Hongyi ordered someone to open the leather bag containing Chi Chuan and the Qi, Mei, and Wang Liang. As expected, you were the one who hid Yi Hongyi. Sikongmu secretly sighed in relief when he saw Yi Hongyi's pale face. Chi Chuan is guilty. Sect leader, please punish me. Yi Hongyi knelt on the ground with a plop and mournfully repented. Do you know what you did wrong? Sikongmu didn't notice anything wrong with the fake Chi Chuan in front of him. Chi Chuan was blinded by greed. He disregarded the stability of Crimson Flame country and privately provoked the imperial court and the imperial sect. Now that the lowly commoners of East Continent are getting restless, Chi Chuan shouldn't have put Crimson Flame country in such dire straits for his own personal gain. Yi Hongyi was used to seeing Chi Chuan groveling in front of Sikongmu. At this moment, he imitated it to perfection. Emperor Yan Qi knows to rein in the horse before it's too late. I'm very comforted. Never mind, we don't need to talk about this anymore. You can leave. Sikongmu waved his hand proudly. He didn't doubt this Emperor Yan Qi in front of him at all. Only after Yi Hongyi left did Huan Luo speak up. Sect Master, do you think that Chi Chuan is truly repentant? At that time, Qi Chuan had solemnly vowed to protect Qi Mei and Wang Liang. He had even gotten injured because of this. Yet he hadn't expected that in just half a day, Qi Chuan would actually deliver Qi Mei and Wang Liang's corpses over, and Yi Hongyi too. Repent? He's just as cowardly as a mouse. This sect master ordered you to go find the Qi Mei Wang Liang to tell him that in this sect master's eyes, he has no secrets to speak of. Adding on the fact that Yi Hongyi's identity has been exposed, he's scared. Qi Chuan has always been like this. Sikong Mu's voice was filled with disdain. What should we do with these 5 bodies? Huan Luo didn't agree with Sikong Mu's explanation. If Qi Chuan was truly repentant, why didn't he expose her earlier? Burn the Qi Mei Wang Liang's corpses to ashes. As for Yi Hongyi, hang him at the city gates. Let everyone know that this is the consequence of betraying this sect master. Sikong Mu coldly ordered, then flicked his sleeves and left. The news of Yi Hongyi's corpse being hung on the city gates quickly reached Yao Moen's ears. I knew it. Just because Yi Hongyi hides, Master will be able to find him, said Diao Diao excitedly as she took the tea Yao Moen had poured for her at the jade table. Ever since she found out about Yi Hongyi's evil deeds, Diao Diao wanted to personally tear Yi Hongyi's corpse into 10,000 pieces. You're saying that Qi Chuan personally delivered Yi Hongyi and his hidden guards to Sikong Mu? Perhaps it was because she understood Yi Hongyi too well. How could an unkillable cockroach like him die so easily and so suddenly? That's right. I knew it. It's good that Qi Chuan was tactful. Otherwise, his reign as emperor would have come to an end. Diao Diao nodded fiercely. It's very strange, don't you think? Yao Moen's brows were tightly furrowed. Chapter 641. What's so strange about that? Yi Hongyi's corpse is already hanging on the city gate tower, what's there to worry about? In any case, no matter who killed him, you've gotten your revenge. Diao Diao didn't care. Is that so? Although Yao Moen didn't find anything strange about Yi Hongyi's death, she still felt uneasy. Don't think so much. Moen, I've prepared everything. You can leave at any time. Diao Diao deliberately glanced towards the door before speaking in a low voice. Diao Diao, you really don't plan on leaving with us? Yi Junqing and the others were still in danger if they stayed in the secret room all day. Thus, Yao Moen decided to send them out of Crimson Flame Country first before allying with the navy of the 7 nations to confront Sikong Mu. This was to make him understand that the 7 nations of Eastern Continent weren't so easy to bully. I can't leave. Master raised me my entire life, how could I betray him? Moen, tell Han Jini to leave. If Diao Diao has the chance, she'll definitely go to Eastern Continent to find him. Diao Diao didn't want Han Jini to leave at all. However, after thinking about it, if Master vented his anger on Han Jini because of Yi Junqing and Yao Moen's escape, she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to protect Han Jini. You're willing. Yao Moen's eyes flashed. How could Han Jini have met such a good girl? You have to give before you can gain, isn't that so? Diao Diao smiled bitterly. How could she be willing? Do as you wish. Moen has thought about it. We'll meet in 3 days at the western part of the city. Since it was Diao Diao's decision, Yao Moen didn't say anything else. Qi Kanglan. Diao Diao was most worried about Qi Kanglan. With Qi Kanglan's martial arts and vigilance, it was almost impossible for him to take Yao Moen away under his watch. Leave this to Moen. Yao Moen's confident gaze reassured Diao Diao. Just as Diao Diao reached the door, she seemed to think of something and suddenly turned around. Qi Kanglan is sincere towards you. If possible, don't hurt him too much. Diao Diao knew the pain of unrequited love. She also knew of Yao Moan's feelings towards Yi Junqing. Thus, Qi Kanglan's love had been destined from the start. Yao Moan didn't reply and only nodded silently. If possible, she didn't want to hurt him at all, but, in the imperial study, Yi Hongyi had guessed that Huan Luo would come looking for him. Qi Chuan, what do you mean by this? Didn't you say that you wanted to keep the demons and monsters alive? You even promised to hand Yi Hongyi over to this saintess to deal with, but what happened in the end? Yet you brought Yi Hongyi and the Qi, Mei, and Wang Liang's corpses to the main altar to ask for a reward. Cult Master was right, you're as cowardly as a mouse, you won't amount to anything. Even Yi Hongyi is more ambitious than you. Huan Luo looked disdainfully at Yi Hongyi, who was leaning lazily on the dragon throne. It's rare that in the holy maiden's eyes, Hongyi still has this little bit of merit. Yi Hongyi let out a long sigh before raising his eyes to look at Huan Luo. His lips curved into a mischievous smile. Hongyi. You're Yi Hongyi? Huan Luo exclaimed in shock. She looked at the man on the throne in shock. Otherwise, Qi Chuan. That cowardly fellow, if I had known earlier that he wouldn't amount to anything, Hongyi would have replaced him earlier. I wasted a great opportunity for nothing. Yi Hongyi's voice sounded a little regretful. Since you're Yi Hongyi, then the one who died. Yi Hongyi. You dared to kill Qi Chuan. Don't you know that he was the emperor of Crimson Flame Nation? Even Sikongmu didn't have any thoughts of killing him. Huan Luo looked at the man in front of her in shock. She suddenly felt like Yi Hongyi was a madman. So what if he was the emperor? We were also the emperor back then, but weren't we also stepped on like mud under someone's feet? Yi Hongyi snorted coldly. When he recalled the humiliation he had suffered in the past, he felt his blood boil. Thankfully, the opportunity had come. As long as Sikongmu died, the entire Crimson Flame Nation would be his. At that time, no matter if it was Yao Moan, Yi Junqing, or Chu Mabe, everyone who had wronged him would die. He, Yi Hongyi, would eventually become the ruler of the entire eastern continent. Alright, even if you did the right thing, didn't you also admit defeat in front of Sikongmu and kneel in front of him like a beggar to beg for his forgiveness? Huan Luo returned to the main topic. If we kneel in exchange for Sikongmu's death, do you think it was worth it? Yi Hongyi's expression suddenly changed into a faint smile. His sinister face was like a devil that had crawled out of hell, causing people's hearts to tremble. That's impossible, you didn't have the chance to make a move. At the time, Huan Luo had been at the headquarters, so she saw everything clearly. Yi Hongyi didn't say anything and just casually tossed a pill to her. What's this? Huan Luo caught the pill and asked in confusion. Huan Luo, you should be glad that you came to find us today. Otherwise, in 10 days, you would have died from the poison just like Sikongmu. Yi Hongyi's words were bone-chilling. You poisoned the corpse. Yi Hongyi, this saintess has underestimated you. Huan Luo was shocked once more. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. It's not too late to know now. Saintess, the arrow is already knocked on the bowstring. You and I don't have a choice. In 10 days, the day Sikongmu dies from the poison will be the day I, Yi Hongyi, unify Crimson Flame Nation. Yi Hongyi clenched his fists as a cold light flashed through his eyes. How did someone as sinister as you lose to Yao Moan and Yi Junqing back then? Asked Huan Luo in confusion. Back then. I was stupid. Yi Hongyi replied with a cold smile. His heart was burning like lava from the flames of hell. If he hadn't fallen in love with Yao Moan, how could he have lost so miserably? Yao Moan. We've let down too many people in this life, but we've only fallen in love with you. But how did you repay us? The night was as deep as a lake. Occasionally, a night breeze would brush by, bringing with it the fragrance of flowers. Yao Moen sat alone in the pavilion as her eyes fell on the pastries in front of the pavilion. Every single one of them had been personally made by her. Diao Diao said you were looking for me. The clear voice was like pearls falling onto a jade plate. Yao Moen turned to look and saw that Qi Kanglin was dressed in clothes as white as snow. His silver hair fluttered in the wind and his handsome face was filled with exhaustion from not sleeping for several days. Even so, Qi Kanglin's beauty was still incomparable. He could be called a deity, or he seemed to have walked out of an ancient painting. I'm bored. If great shaman has time, please sit. Yao Moen restrained the hesitation that flashed through her eyes and said with a faint smile. Kanglin thought you didn't want to see me. Qi Kanglin clearly felt overwhelmed by the favor. He walked forward and sat in front of Yao Moen. If I were Yao Moen, I really wouldn't want to see great shaman for even a quarter of an hour. However, I was once holy Wan, Wan will always remember great shaman's care and protection. Yao Moen smiled faintly as she lifted the pot and personally poured a cup for Qi Kanglin. You don't hate me? Qi Kanglin couldn't resist the wine Yao Moen handed over. This was the first time Yao Moen poured wine for him. Hate? Hate what? Hate great shaman for abducting Moen from Great Chu back to Crimson Flame Country. Even if great shaman hadn't done it, it would have been someone else. Now that things have reached this point, one really doesn't need to hold a grudge. Yao Moen took a sip. The strong wine was spicy, causing Yao Moen to frown. Cult Master said there's no cure for phoenix tears. How did you recover your memories? Don't say it's related to Kanglin's hypnosis. Kanglin is very clear about the effects of hypnosis. Qi Kanglin held the wine cup as he looked towards Yao Moen with a deep gaze. Great shaman, do you still remember that day when Yi Junqing poisoned you? At the moment of life and death, you swallowed a bead? After parting today, it was unknown when they would meet again. Yao Moen didn't want to hide too much from Qi Kanglin. I remember. So what? Qi Kanglin nodded slightly. Chapter 642. That bead is called Fate Ascension. Sikongmu also has one. That bead is the antidote for phoenix tears, that's why Moen drank your blood. Yao Moen's meaning was that she already knew his true identity. So Kanglin was kept in the dark this whole time. Qi Kanglin lowered his gaze and a bitter smile appeared on his lips. It was just a lowered gaze, but it hurt Yao Moen's heart. She owed him too much, and even if she wanted to pay him back, she didn't know where to start. Moen, let's toast Great Priest. Everything that happened in the past, who was right and who was wrong, are like fleeting clouds. Let's not bother too much about it. Yao Moen drank first to show respect. Her throat felt like it was on fire. Once Yao Moen put down the wine cup, Qi Kanglin pursed his lips and drank it in one gulp after a moment of hesitation. How could Kanglin bear to let Wan'er drink alone? Even if this wine was poisoned, Kanglin wouldn't even blink. Qi Kanglin's words made Yao Moen feel indescribably guilty. It was as if the man in front of her had already guessed that the wine was poisoned. What poisoned? Great Priest is thinking too much. Yao Moen endured the awkwardness and explained indifferently. Yes or no, it all depends on how much Kanglin weighs in your heart. Coincidentally, this is also what Kanglin wants to know. Qi Kanglin picked up the wine pot and filled his cup. Without waiting for Yao Moen to speak, he drank it again. Yao Moen was speechless as she silently stared at the man in front of her. Her heart felt like it was being pricked by needles. The man who was as handsome as an immortal was already slightly drunk, but he still persisted and drank the entire pot of wine. What did he want to prove? Great Priest really thinks that Wan'er would poison the wine? Yao Moen's eyes became moist as she looked at Qi Kanglin's dazed eyes. If it was for Yi Junqing, you would. Muttered Qi Kanglan. The wine cup in his hand fell to the ground and his body swayed as he lay on the stone table. The wind rose, ruffling the jade water under the pavilion. Yao Mo Wan slowly got up and covered Qi Tsanglan's body with the cloak she was wearing. No matter who it was for, Wan wouldn't have poisoned you. It's just strong alcohol mixed with some intoxicating substances. You'll only sleep for 2 days. Lan Sung, thank you. Yao Mo Wan supported Qi Kanglan's drooping arm onto the stone table so that he could sleep more comfortably. Her heart suddenly ached. This was the only thing she had done for Qi Kanglan. When Diao Diao saw that Qi Kanglan had been knocked out by Yao Moan, she rushed forward from the shadows. Stop being so emotional. Han Genie and the others are already waiting at the west gate. I'll send you there. As Diao Diao spoke, she draped the clothes in her arms over Yao Moan and pushed her out of the pavilion. In her panic, she glanced back and saw Qi Kanglan standing under the moon and stars. His silver-white long hair was so beautiful that it could topple the heavens and overturn the earth. He became an eternal scene in Yao Moan's heart. Under Diao Diao's cover, Yao Moan finally reached the western city gates. At this time, there were 2 carriages hidden in the forest. When Diao Diao arrived with Yao Moan, Yi Junqing was the first to jump out of the carriage. It was a familiar face, but it wasn't the calm and unperturbed state of mind from before. Yi Junqing took large strides to stand in front of Yao Moan. Before Yao Moan could steady herself, he pulled Yao Moan into his arms. Moan, I'm sorry, it was me who lost you, over and over again. Junqing swears that in this lifetime, Junqing will never let go of your hand even in death. If I lose you again, how will Junqing live? Yi Junqing's voice was heavy with sobs. His tears flowed down his cheeks and onto Yao Moan's snow-white neck. The scalding tears burned Yao Moan's heart. Junqing. Moan misses you so much. I really, really miss you. Yao Moan's hands that were hanging by her sides tightly hugged Yi Junqing as she unrestrainedly poured out the pain of parting. Hurry and go, it'll be bad if someone finds out. Diao Diao knew that Yao Moan and Yi Junqing were very excited right now, but this really wasn't the time to talk about love. That's right, Diao Diao, you get in too. At the side, Han Genie reached out to pull Diao Diao, but Diao Diao dodged. Genie. I'm sorry, I can't go with you. But don't worry, as long as there's a chance, I'll come find you. Moan, goodbye. Diao Diao didn't even give Han Genie a chance to speak. She leaped up and instantly disappeared into the night. Why? As Han Genie watched Diao Diao's figure gradually disappear, her eyes instantly dimmed. Genie, Sikong Mu is Diao Diao's relative after all. If you let Diao Diao leave just like this, she won't be able to get over it. But don't worry, Diao Diao said that as long as everything here is settled, she'll definitely come to Eastern Continent to find you. Yao Moan withdrew from Yi Junqing's embrace and looked towards Han Genie. Is that so? Hurry and go. It wasn't easy for us to get out, we can't let all our previous efforts go to waste. Han Genie suppressed the disappointment in her heart and urged. The 2 carriages left the forest at the fastest speed possible and headed towards Yi Prefecture, which was the closest to the sea. The carriages rolled forward. Inside the carriage, Yao Moan and Yi Junqing were sitting facing each other. Han Genie, Di Feng, and Feng Yihan were sitting in the other carriage. The driver was Diao Diao's trusted aide. Firstly, they were familiar with the route, and secondly, if something really happened, they could give Diao Diao a secret signal. Moan, I'm sorry. Junqing really should dig out his eyes, he actually didn't recognize you. This is already the 3rd time. Isn't Junqing very useless? Yi Junqing finally couldn't suppress his emotions and rushed to Yao Moan's side. He pulled Yao Moan tightly into his embrace and roared in annoyance. That's right, I'm so angry. How could you not recognize me? In her memories, Yi Juanqing's chest was thicker and sturdier than it was now. The current Yi Junqing had already lost a lot of weight. If there's a next time, Junqing won't want these eyes anymore. Moan. Junqing misses you so much. Yi Junqing hugged Yao Moan tightly. Perhaps it was because he was too tight, but Yao Moan felt that it was a bit hard to breathe. It was as if Yi Junqing wanted to crush her into his heart. That won't do. If you ruin my face, Moan will dislike it. Yao Moan's long eyelashes fluttered up as she silently stared at Yi Juanqing's face. His resolute cheeks gradually turned a bronze color and his cheekbones protruded slightly. Just how much pain had Yi Junqing suffered this past year in order to find her? Then I won't gouge them out. In any case, Junqing will never let go of your hand again. I won't let you get lost again. Moan, forgive Junqing for having eyes but not seeing, alright? Yi Juanqing's tone was so gentle that it seemed like water could be squeezed out of it. His eyes were as gentle as the moonlight. Moan is still Moan, but Junqing seems to have become more effeminate. In the end, Yao Moan's cherry lips curved into a smile as tears silently fell from the corners of her eyes. Kisses covered the sky and earth, forcing Yao Moan's words back into her mouth. The sound of hot and heavy breathing filled the entire carriage. Yi Junqing passionately kissed Yao Moan's lips, his hand running through her inky hair, forcing Yao Moan to stick to his body. Her fragrance lingered in his nose. Yi Juanqing's lips left Yao Moan's swollen cherry lips and licked the tears rolling down her tender cheeks. He knew that Moan was crying. After a long time, Yao Moan snuggled into Yi Juanqing's embrace, feeling the warmth she hadn't felt in a long time. Junqing, let me ask you something. If Yao Moan dies, will Shen Wan, she won't. Junqing only has Yao Moan in his heart. If Moan dies, what meaning would there be for Junqing to live? Yao Moan was just about to speak when Yi Junqing guessed her thoughts. I just knew that you were thinking that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have told you that I was still alive back then. Junqing, if you commit suicide like this, what meaning would there be in everything Moan has done? Yao Moan looked up angrily and glared at Yi Junqing. Moan, you once told Junqing that everything you've done was to return Junqing lovely land, right? Yi Junqing didn't care about Yao Moan's angry glare and gently brushed aside a strand of messy hair on Yao Moan's forehead. That's right. For this goal, she had always been working hard. Chapter 643. In this life, Junqing also wants to do one thing for Moan, and that is to use these vast rivers and mountains to exchange for a lifetime, for a pair of people. Moan, how many times do people grieve over the past? The mountains are still cold, the rivers and mountains are there, but who will it belong to? As for Junqing, he only wants to belong to you, your Junqing will never leave again. Yi Junqing ignored the anger in Yao Moan's eyes and hugged her even tighter. Her heart was suddenly enlightened. Perhaps her stubbornness had always been ridiculously wrong. The Yi Junqing she knew, whether it was in the past or now, had only asked for a pair of people for a lifetime. The years are peaceful, with the gentleman, the years flow by like water, with the gentleman, flourishing falls, with the gentleman. Junqing. Yao Moan withdrew her pouting gaze and leaned back, pressing her face gently against Yi Juanqing's chest. When Qi Kanglin woke up, it was already 2 days later. Qi Kanglin looked at Diao Diao, who was sitting at the table and drawing circles with her finger out of boredom. He clutched his forehead and got off the bed. What are you doing here? Qi Kanglin looked towards Diao Diao suspiciously. When he saw that Diao Diao was silent, he suddenly thought of something and rushed in front of her. Where's Yao Moan? Where is she? Qi Kanglin shook his head with all his might as the scene of them drinking in the pavilion appeared in his mind. If you really like her, then you should know what she wants. Qi Kanglin, don't deceive yourself. The person she loves is Yi Junqing. Diao Diao took a deep breath and her fingers that were twirling in circles suddenly stopped. You let her go. And Yi Junqing and the others, they left together, didn't they? Qi Kanglin roared fiercely as his deep eyes emitted an icy chill. He was angry at Yao Mo Wan for leaving without a word. What did that make him? Was he just an insignificant passerby? The Qi Kanglin I know has always had no desires. Be yourself. Otherwise, in the end, you'll only sink even deeper and be hurt even more. Diao Diao looked at Qi Kanglin with heartache and consoled him. Impossible. I won't let Moen leave like this. She still owes me an explanation. Qi Kanglin's clenched fists tightened. With a wave of his hand, the door slammed to the ground. Qi Kanglin. Where are you going? Seeing Qi Kanglin's figure flash out of the room like the wind, Diao Diao hastily chased after him, but was still a step too late. Reporting to Sect Master, Kanglin will definitely capture Yi Junqing and bring him back. A cold voice echoed through the air, but Qi Kanglin had already disappeared. Qi Kanglin, you can become a Buddha or a devil with a single thought. Don't do something that you will regret. Just as Diao Diao was worrying about Yao Moen's safety, a figure suddenly appeared beside her. Qi Kanglin has left, what are you doing here? Diao Diao had not forgotten who had poisoned her hair. If it were not for the fact that she had yet to fully recover her strength, she swore that she would not have said another word to Huan Luo. I'm here to look for you. Diao Diao, it seems like you haven't visited the Sect Master in a long time, right? I heard that Sect Master's body condition is not as good as before. When Huan Luo heard Qi Kanglin's name, her brows involuntarily tightened, but she recovered in an instant. Master. Diao Diao was slightly shaken when she heard this, but her expression didn't change at all. Yao Moen had once reminded her not to let anyone know that Sikong Mu had helped her detoxify the poison. Especially after she left, she couldn't easily trust anyone around her. That's right. You should know about Sect Master's body, right? Huan Luo looked towards Diao Diao probingly. It's precisely because I know that I don't need to see him. Which eye of yours saw that Master's body was not as good as before? Diao Diao raised her brows and countered with a question. Both eyes saw it. Huan Luo harumphed coldly. She was inwardly shocked. Diao Diao had always cared about Sikong Mu the most, but Diao Diao remained unmoved even after she said this. Could it be that Sikong Mu really hadn't helped Diao Diao detoxify the poison? Then how did Diao Diao detoxify the poison? Alright then. When I see Master in the future, Diao Diao will definitely have Master reward those two eyes of yours. Diao Diao harumphed, then turned around and walked back to the main hall. In any case, I've already said what I needed to say. It's up to you whether you want to believe me or not. You said that Qi Kanglin left earlier. Where did he go? Huan Luo couldn't help but ask. Who knows? Diao Diao still grumbled in annoyance. Huan Luo was speechless, so she turned around and left. The second Huan Luo disappeared, Diao Diao's eyes were filled with worry. She had been so focused on Han Jini that she had forgotten to go check on Master. When Diao Diao thought about how Master had exhausted most of his strength to save her, she couldn't sit still anymore and hurriedly left the ancestral hall. When Huan Luo saw Diao Diao's figure leap out of the ancestral hall, she smiled coldly at Yi Hongyi. It looks like Sikong Mu's body really isn't in good condition. Yi Hongyi, are you ready? Next to Huan Luo, the man in the black robe and black hat didn't speak. Instead, he let out a sinister laugh. Diao Diao had rushed all the way to the main altar when she ran into an ambush in an alley not far from the main altar. Are you all blind? How dare you block this lady's path? Move aside. Diao Diao looked angrily at the dozen or so men in black in front of her. Her voice was as cold as a hammer. Ever since she could remember, no one in the entire Crimson Flame country had dared to block her path. Go! The person in the lead waved his hand and the dozen or so men in black charged at Diao Diao, each brandishing their weapons. You're courting death. Diao Diao fiercely spat. Her jade-like wrist slashed across her waist, and a silver thread suddenly spun out from her waist. Like a nimble dragon, it shot towards the black-clothed man. Wherever the silver thread went, the black-clothed man wailed incessantly. Of the dozen or so men in black, only 7 or 8 were left trapped by the silver thread. The rest were howling in pain on the ground. You overestimate yourself. Diao Diao pursed her lips disdainfully. The silver thread in her hand shot even more fiercely toward the men in black. However, in the blink of an eye, another dozen or so men in black charged out. Those men in black charged at Diao Diao as if they didn't care about their lives. More and more of them gathered, and the more they killed, the braver they became. When a few men in black got close, Diao Diao brandished the silver thread with one hand and used her other hand to form a palm. With a wave of her hand, she hit 2 men in black in front of her. Right at this moment, a gust of cold wind blew behind her. Diao Diao turned around and slammed her palm into the man in black's robe. The man in black died on the spot. The attacks continued, but Diao Diao felt more and more powerless. Her vision gradually blurred. Stop! A cold voice suddenly rang out. The men in black quickly carried the corpses on the ground and disappeared into the alley. Diao Diao shook her head and tried to wake herself up. When she turned around, she met the gaze of the person standing in front of her. It's you. Diao Diao said with difficulty. However, before she could finish speaking, she fell to the ground unconscious. Diao Diao, I didn't think you would have such a day. When Diao Diao fainted, Huan Luo secretly walked to Yi Hengyi's side and looked at Diao Diao with resentment in her cold eyes. This is the most secluded place between the priest's manor and the main altar. It is also the blind spot of the imperial cult spies, so this is the best place to attack. Due to Diao Diao's skills, we ordered the death warriors to wear clothes soaked in knockout powder. As long as Diao Diao touches them, she will be poisoned. Yi Hengyi explained his flawless plan. What should we do next? Although Huan Luo looked down on Yi Hengyi, she had to admit that Yi Hengyi's scheme was effective. We really want to know if Sikong Mu is a god or not. Give this to Sikong Mu. As Yi Hengyi spoke, he handed a letter to Huan Luo. However, Huan Luo didn't use her hand to take it. Chapter 644. Don't worry, in our eyes, Lady Holy Maiden will always be our indispensable ally. We won't harm you no matter what. Yi Hengyi saw through Huan Luo's apprehension and smiled. Huan Luo snorted coldly before taking the letter. When she opened it, her lips couldn't help but curve into a smile. As expected, you're more courageous than Qi Chuan. Huan Luo no longer hesitated and left with the letter. After Huan Luo disappeared, Yi Hengyi walked up and lifted Diao Diao onto his shoulder with one hand before disappearing into the alley. After 2 days and 2 nights of non-stop travel, Yi Junqing and the others finally stopped and temporarily checked into an inn. Since the wanted posters had been posted all over Crimson Flame country, Yi Junqing and the others could only stay in their rooms. Diao Diao's trusted aides took care of everything outside. At this time, the food had already been brought in. If there are no accidents, you will reach Yi Prefecture in 3 days. Find this place then. Here are the ships and items that Diao Diao has prepared for you. As Han Jini spoke, he placed the map that Diao Diao had drawn for him on the table and spoke seriously. Us? Then what about you? Yao Moan understood the meaning behind Han Jini's words and asked in confusion. I don't want to leave anymore. I want to go back and find Diao Diao. Han Genie's resolute expression caused everyone present to tremble. Supreme Lord Han, Ihan feels that no matter what, Diao Diao is still Sikong Mu's inner disciple. Even if they find out that she let us go, there won't be any danger to our lives. However, you're different. If you go back, it's very likely that you'll be killed. Feng Yihan looked towards Han Genie. That's right, we managed to escape from the tiger's mouth with great difficulty. If you go back, wouldn't you be letting down Diao Diao's good intentions? Di Feng also tried to comfort him. Supreme Lord, Junqing feels that you should leave with us first. We can discuss this further later. Yi Junqing looked towards Han Genie worriedly. King Chu, Genie asks you, during the time you've been searching for Yao Moan, have you ever thought about these 4 words in the long run? Han Genie's eyes were unswerving as she enunciated each word clearly. Genie, although Moan doesn't want you to take any risks, if you really make up your mind, Moan won't stop you. Just be careful. You have to avoid Huan Luo's spies. Yao Moan knew that Han Genie had already made up her mind, so there was no point in trying to persuade her. Don't worry, Genie knows what to do. Han Genie nodded, folded up the map, and handed it to Yao Moan. At midnight, Han Genie finally left the inn. Several meters away, Yao Moan handed Han Genie the package in her hands. Genie, Moan knows what you've done for Moan while Moan was missing. Moan will always remember this favor. Yao Moan's clear eyes flickered with a lustrous luster like the autumn waters. Her cherry lips were tightly pursed and her voice carried the sorrow of parting. Everything Jingyi has been done out of my own free will. Now that I see that you're fine, Jingyi can finally relax. Moan, everything that happened in the past has already been carved into Jingyi's heart, but Jingyi still lost to Yi Junqing. Jingyi feels inferior to that kind of persistence. If it wasn't for that. A hint of bitterness appeared on Han Genie's lips. Even if there was only the slightest chance, he wouldn't give up on Yao Moan. If it wasn't for that, you wouldn't be able to see such a different scenery. Diao Diao is a good girl who values friendship and loyalty. Yao Moan knew what Han Genie was referring to and promptly responded. Jingyi naturally won't let her down. Moan, take care of yourself. We'll meet again someday. A hint of darkness flashed through Han Genie's eyes, then he looked towards Yao Moan with a resolute gaze. You take care as well. Send my regards to Diao Diao. As Yao Moan nodded slightly, Han Genie had already left. It wasn't until Han Genie's figure faded from her line of sight that Yao Moan noticed that a cloak had appeared on her. Supreme Lord Han will be fine, comforted Yi Junqing lightly as he gently caressed Yao Moan's snow-white shoulder. Junqing. Yao Moan pressed her head against Yi Junqing's chest. She was more or less hurt as the pain of parting gradually filled her chest. Behind him, Feng Yihan's lips curled into a faint smile as a trace of loneliness flashed across his eyes. Suddenly, a hand rested on Feng Yihan's shoulder. Your harem is filled with beauties, it doesn't make a difference if you have one more or one less. Di Feng's words were very meaningful. Feng Yihan feigned a relieved smile, but a faint ripple appeared in his heart. According to Yi Hongyi, Huan Luo only handed the note to Sikong Mu 2 days later. Preposterous. There's actually someone who dares to kidnap Diao in Crimson Flame Country's territory. Where did you get the note? Leng Zhe's voice suddenly resounded through the main altar. It was like the voice of hell, causing one's hair to stand on end. Reporting to Sect Master, that person's martial arts are extremely high. After Huan Luo received the note, that person was already nowhere to be seen. Reported Huan Luo guiltily. I didn't think that there would be someone in Crimson Flame Country who dares to threaten this sect master. This sect master would like to meet this person. Sikong Mu jumped off the enormous python and floated in front of Huan Luo like the wind. Sect master. Since this person dared to openly challenge sect master, he must have made preparations. If you go there rashly, I'm afraid it's not appropriate. Huan Luo pretended to be worried and tried to dissuade him. Not appropriate? Humph. In Crimson Flame Country, this sect master is the heavens. I'd like to see who has the guts of a leopard and dares to oppose the heavens. Sikong Mu roared so violently that Huan Luo's eardrums hurt. Before Huan Luo could react, Sikong Mu had already left the main altar. When Sikong Mu disappeared, Huan Luo's lips curved into a strange smile. Sikong Mu, even the heavens have a time when they collapse. When Diao Diao woke up, she suddenly discovered that she was tied to a tree trunk. The tough cowhide rope had bound her to a towering ancient tree. Diao Diao instinctively circulated her inner energy to break the rope, but she discovered that she had no inner energy at all. Almost at the same time, she felt a sharp pain in her body from where the cowhide rope had bound her. Diao Diao looked down in pain, and only then did she discover that her clothes were stained with blood. The cowhide rope that had been soaked in salt water had cut into her flesh, and blood dripped from the rope onto her clothes. Ugh! The sharp pain snapped Diao Diao out of her daze. She quickly looked around, but she did not discover any traces. At this moment, Diao Diao could not struggle. If she exerted even the slightest bit of strength, she would suffer a heart-wrenching pain. Suddenly, a black silhouette approached from afar. Diao Diao recognized the newcomer with just one glance. That unchanging golden mask made Diao Diao feel a surge of warmth in her heart. Master! Diao Diao! Just as Diao Diao was about to call for help, she suddenly heard whooshing sounds. She saw dozens of sharp arrows shooting toward the newcomer from behind her. Master, be careful. While Diao Diao was shocked, the pain in her body drowned her consciousness again like a tidal wave. The feeling of her flesh being cut by a blunt knife almost made Diao Diao faint. Sikong Mu, who seemed to be riding the wind, did not care about the sharp arrows before him. With a flick of his sleeve, the arrows stopped and fell to the ground one after another. Diao Diao. When Sikong Mu landed, he finally saw the situation of his beloved disciple. Seeing that Diao Diao was covered in blood and her face was pale, Sikong Mu flew into a rage and rushed over. However, when he was 100 meters away from Diao Diao, iron rods as thick as a wrist suddenly shot out from the ground in front of Sikong Mu. Almost at the same time, iron rods made of pure iron shot out from all directions and surrounded Sikong Mu. Master! Leave quickly, don't care about Diao Diao. Seeing that Sikong Mu was trapped, Diao Diao's tears gushed out. She struggled with all her might in pain. Even if she died, she could not watch her master be trapped. Chapter 645. Diao Diao. Don't move. How could Sikong Mu allow Diao Diao to hurt him like this? He immediately activated his inner force and raised both of his palms above his head. The iron rod that was as thick as his wrist broke and fell heavily to the ground. Sikong Mu leaped out of the iron cage and bent down toward Diao Diao. Another round of arrows rained down on Sikong Mu. Those fine arrows were like the hairs of a cow. Sikong Mu's eyes suddenly turned cold. As he somersaulted in the air, he waved his sleeves and used his chi to form a palm. All the arrows were frozen in place and then fell to the ground. The moment he fell to the ground, Sikong Mu clearly felt that he was exhausted. There seemed to be a mouthful of blood stuck in his chest. It was strangely suffocating. Normally, even if he used all his power, this wouldn't happen. Sikong Mu knew that something was wrong with his body. His beloved disciple was right in front of him. How could he not save her? Sikong Mu moved forward again. Suddenly, chopping boards fell from the sky. The sharp bayonets were like the fangs of a beast. If they touched Sikongmu, his skin would be torn apart. Master! Wu! Seeing Sikongmu surrounded by hidden weapons, Diao Diao wanted to help. However, the cowhide rope on her body couldn't be broken no matter how hard she struggled. Blood dripped down and stained Diao Diao's snow-white clothes. Diao Diao! Don't move. Master will save you now. Sikongmu dodged the chopping board above his head. Suddenly, two huge chopping boards suddenly appeared on Diao Diao's left and right and slammed towards Diao Diao with lightning speed. At this moment, Sikongmu suddenly suffocated. If the two chopping boards hit Diao Diao, then his beloved disciple would definitely become a meat patty under the chopping boards. Master! Don't worry about Diao Diao. Go quickly. Diao Diao knew that she was going to die, so she simply shouted at Sikongmu. At this critical moment, Sikongmu used all the strength in his body. He gathered all his inner chi in his hands and fiercely attacked the ancient tree. With a crack, the ancient tree fell to the ground. Diao Diao's body fell to the ground along with the ancient tree. When Diao Diao woke up from the shock, she clearly saw Sikongmu's arms supporting the chopping board. The sharp thorns on the chopping board had already pierced through Sikongmu's palms. Blood trickled down from Sikongmu's palms, stinging Diao Diao's eyes. Master! Diao Diao wailed hysterically, tears rolling down her face. Between the two chopping boards, Sikongmu endured the sharp pain in his chest and fiercely exerted his strength. The chopping board suddenly shot out, and the friction between his palm and the sharp thorn made Sikongmu once again taste the heart-wrenching pain. Diao Diao! Don't be afraid. With Master around, no one will dare to hurt you. Sikongmu leaped to Diao Diao's side and used his bleeding hands to tear off the leather rope. Diao Diao, who had been freed, suddenly threw herself into Sikongmu's arms, tears falling like rain. Master! Diao isn't worth it for you to treat me so well. Boo-hoo! The scene earlier was too shocking. Diao Diao knew that Sikongmu doted on her, but she didn't know that in order to save her, Sikongmu actually disregarded his own life and death. For you, Master will do anything. Diao Diao, follow Master. Seeing Diao Diao's skin split open by the cowhide rope, Sikongmu's heart surged with rage. However, Sikongmu knew that he was probably poisoned. Otherwise, those two sharp thorns on the chopping board wouldn't have been able to injure him at all. In order to ensure Diao Diao's safety, Sikongmu simply carried Diao Diao on his back and quickly left the forest, heading towards the paradise. Looking at the mess on the ground, Huan Luo couldn't help but sigh. If it had been her, she definitely wouldn't have survived that entire set of hidden weapons. As expected, Sikongmu was worthy of the title of Imperial sect leader. Didn't you say that Sikongmu was poisoned? Now it seems that your poison might not be as effective as you thought. Huan Luo teased. Behind her, Yi Hongyi leisurely walked out. Is that so? The Grand Imperial sect leader actually had his palm pierced by a thorn on a chopping board. Aren't you surprised? Yi Hongyi walked lazily to the trunk of the towering ancient tree. When he saw the overly red blood on the ground, his lips curved into a mischievous smile. That's because he knocked down this towering tree earlier and didn't have time to circulate qi in his palm. Huan Luo didn't think much of it. Ha! Huan Luo, although you've been with Sikongmu for longer than us, you don't understand him as well as we do. He's a high and mighty ruler, a man who compares himself to the heavens. How could he tolerate his beloved disciple being injured like that and not even say a word? He knew very well that there were people watching everything from the shadows. The reason why he didn't warn them was because he couldn't guarantee that he wouldn't have the ability to protect Diao Diao's safety once the people watching from the shadows came out. Huan Luo, he's starting to doubt himself. Yi Hongyi half crouched down and gently picked up the pool of blood on the tree trunk. He raised it in front of Huan Luo. He was really poisoned. When she saw the blood on Yi Hongyi's fingertip, a light flashed through Huan Luo's eyes. Based on his current speed, Sikong Mu will definitely become a cripple in less than 2 days. Yi Hongyi looked at Huan Luo meaningfully and smiled sinisterly. What do you want me to do? For a moment, Huan Luo actually felt fear towards the man in front of her. That kind of insanity that came from deep within his bones seemed to have the power to destroy the world. It made people's hearts tremble. If we guessed correctly, Sikong Mu must have taken Diao Diao to recuperate. Our spies reported that they saw Qi Kanglan 1,000 li away. This means that Qi Kanglan isn't in the imperial capital. This is the perfect opportunity for you to control the entire imperial sect. Find Sikong Mu and Diao Diao and control them. We will cast a long line to catch a big fish, said Yi Hongyi resolutely. His eyes were cold. Qi Kanglan isn't in the imperial capital. Then where did he go? When Huan Luo heard this, her brows furrowed. Other than Yao Moan, who else would have the ability to make Qi Kanglan leave the imperial capital without permission? But don't worry, if he hears that Sikong Mu and Diao Diao have been killed, he'll hurry back. Right now, Qi Kanglan was the only threat left in the imperial sect. As long as he got rid of him, Crimson Flame Country would belong to him. As for Yi Junqing and Yao Moan, it wouldn't be easy for them to leave Crimson Flame Country either. You want to lure Qi Kanglan into taking the bait? Huan Luo looked towards Yi Hongyi in alarm. Lady Saintess, don't worry. We have no interest in Qi Kanglan. You can do whatever you want with this man. Yi Hongyi naturally saw through Huan Luo's intentions. Fine. This Saintess will go find Sikong Mu and Diao Diao right now. I hope it's as you wish. Huan Luo glanced at Yi Hongyi, then left. After 2 days, Yao Moan and the others finally reached Yi Prefecture at around 5 in the morning. Originally, Yao Moan had suggested that they find a ship that night and leave Crimson Flame Country. However, Diao Diao had hidden the ship in the outskirts of the city. The city gates were closed at night, so they could only wait until dawn. Inside the room of the inn, candlelight flickered and fragrant incense wafted through the air. After dinner, Yi Junqing tossed and turned, unable to sleep. In the end, he pushed open the door to Yao Moan's room. Did I think you'd sleep? Yi Junqing walked into the room and closed the door behind him. I can't sleep. What about you? Yao Moan smiled slightly. Her originally depressed mood instantly relaxed when she saw Yi Junqing. That's true, we'll be able to leave Crimson Flame Country tomorrow. Moan, after we leave, where are we going? Yi Junqing's words surprised Yao Moan greatly. Naturally we'll be returning to Great Chu. What? You have other plans? Yao Moan felt that Yi Junqing's question was unreasonable. Junqing has thought about it. After we've pacified Crimson Flame Country, Junqing wants to open a restaurant with you. You can be the shopkeeper and Junqing will be your waiter. We'll spend the rest of our lives in a place where no one knows us, alright? The time they spent together in Juxian restaurant made Yi Junqing feel that this was the kind of life that suited Yao Moan. There was no fighting, no scheming, no mutual deception, no treachery. Chapter 646. You don't want the lands of Great Chu that we fought together? For a moment, Yao Moan suddenly questioned her own persistence. She wanted to return Yi Junqing the most magnificent lands of Great Chu, but was that really what Yi Junqing wanted? Junqing only wants you. Yi Junqing pursed his lips as he made a vow that would never change in this lifetime. Then, let's pacify Crimson Flame Country first. Yao Moen's hand trembled slightly as a warm feeling spread through her body. She and Yi Junqing had missed each other for a whole 8 years. If she had known back then that the person who had saved her was Yi Junqing, what kind of scene would it have been? 8 years, all the trials and tribulations she had experienced seemed like a dream. When she woke up, he was still by her side. I've already thought of a way to deal with those sea monsters. As long as we have enough gunpowder, we don't have to worry about not being able to kill them. When we return this time, Junqing will gather the navy of the 7 nations and give Sikongmu a fatal blow. Suggested Yi Junqing solemnly. Moen has also thought about it. No matter how big the sea monsters are, they're still made of flesh and blood. As long as Zhu Chen can invent a powerful gunpowder, we might not necessarily lose. Yao Moen also replied when she saw that Yi Junqing had returned to the main topic. That's a good idea, but how many navy do you need to send to deal with several hundred sea monsters? Gunpowder is indeed powerful on land, but on the sea, especially against those sea monsters that can quickly dive thousands of feet into the sea, it's not worth mentioning. The leisurely voice seemed to come from the distant horizon, but also sounded like it was ringing in one's ears. Yao Moen and Yi Junqing looked in the direction of the voice in shock. Qi Kanglan. In the instant Yao Moen said this in shock, Qi Kanglan had already moved in front of Yi Junqing like the wind and sealed Yi Junqing's sleeping acupuncture point with 2 tap sounds. What are you doing? Yao Moen stood up in shock and pushed Qi Kanglan away without hesitation to move to Yi Junqing's side. His heart hurt, as if a knife had been stabbed into it and then pulled out bit by bit. The feeling of flesh rubbing against a sharp blade made Qi Kanglan stagger back several steps. I'm going to capture them. From the beginning to the end, this has always been my duty. Qi Kanglan said coldly, his clear eyes surging with a cold light. Kanglan, that night. Yao Moen saw the hurt in Qi Kanglan's eyes and spoke with difficulty. This priest wasn't drunk at all that night. This priest had predicted that you would escape with Yi Junqing, so I purposely let you go. What? Do you really think this priest has been bewitched by you and will listen to you? Yao Moen. Who do you think you are? You're a lowly commoner. Qi Kanglan roared angrily, using his voice to conceal his injuries. The moment Yao Moen pushed him away, he completely understood where Yao Moen's heart was. So. Yao Moen's eyes were filled with faint sorrow. Therefore, this priest will bring all of you back and hand you over to sect master to deal with. Qi Kanglan said coldly as he looked straight at Yao Mo Wan. His heart was filled with complicated feelings. That's fine. Since Lord Priest has decided, there's no point in Moen resisting. Yao Moen silently turned around and supported Yi Junqing towards the bed. You, don't beg me. Qi Kanglan looked towards Yao Moen in disbelief. He had once thought that as long as Yao Moen was willing to beg him, even if it was just a single sentence, he would consider letting them leave. Moen just doesn't want Lord Priest to be put in a difficult position in front of Sikongmu. If Yao Moen was alone, then this would be her true thoughts. But right now, with Yi Junqing present, Yao Moen's words were just a retreat for the sake of advancing. She was betting on Qi Kanglan's conscience and his sincerity towards her. Do you care about me? Yao Moen. You sanctimonious woman, you've only ever cared about Yi Junqing. Do you have a place for this priest in your heart? Really? For 3 days and 3 nights without rest, Qi Kanglan had chased him all the way from the imperial capital. He didn't want to capture Yao Moen, nor did he want to kill Yi Junqing. He just wanted to hear an explanation from Yao Moen. Even if it was just a glance at her. If Moen says I do, would you believe me? Yao Moen helped Yi Junqing onto the bed, then turned around to look towards Qi Kanglan coldly. Only a ghost would believe me. Qi Kanglan couldn't meet Yao Moen's deep gaze. He abruptly turned around, slammed the door, and left. The next day, Qi Kanglin really did push Yao Moen and the others into the carriage to head towards the imperial capital. By the time Huan Luo brought the imperial faction's trusted subordinates to the unworldly peach garden, Sikong Mu was already lying weakly on the bed. Diao Diao was feeding him medicine by the bedside. Sect Master, you made Huan Luo look for you for a long time. Huan Luo never thought that there would be such a beautiful place behind the headquarters. Huan Luo's clothes fluttered as she walked into the small building. Disdain filled her eyes. Huan Luo. How did you get in here? Get out. Diao Diao immediately stood up when she saw it was Huan Luo. Perhaps it was because she had moved too much, but the wounds on her body hurt. Ha, your injuries aren't light, are they? Huan Luo ignored Diao Diao's anger and the weak Sikong Mu on the bed and leisurely sat down on the chair. Huan Luo, how dare you trespass into this cult master's forbidden area? Aren't you afraid of death? Sikong Mu's voice was still deep on the bed, but it had lost some of its sharpness. Sikong Mu, how much longer are you going to pretend for? If you still had your martial arts, how could you allow Huan Luo to sit on this chair? Ha, you've already reached the end of your road, haven't you? Huan Luo's mood improved greatly when she saw Diao Diao and Sikong Mu like this. You. How do you know Master's martial arts? Huan Luo. You're a traitor. Diao Diao suddenly understood and charged at Huan Luo angrily. However, the white cloth flashed and Diao Diao instantly fell onto the bed with blood trickling from the corner of her mouth. Diao Diao. When Sikong Mu saw that Diao Diao was injured, he immediately propped himself up. However, his body was too weak, so he didn't even have the strength to get off the bed. TSK TSK. Sikong Mu, don't you care about this inner disciple the most? Why are you so indifferent now that she's getting beaten up? Oh. Let Huan Luo guess, it's not that you're indifferent, but that you've been poisoned. Now that the poison has entered your lungs, you're probably going to die, right? Ha ha ha. Seeing that Sikong Mu, who had been arrogant and domineering for more than 20 years, had suddenly become so weak, Huan Luo felt an indescribable sense of pleasure from the bottom of her heart. Huan Luo, you ungrateful bastard. Diao Diao glared at Huan Luo and strenuously stood in front of Sikong Mu, afraid that Huan Luo would attack Sikong Mu. I'm ungrateful. Diao Diao, go back and ask Sikong Mu if he's done me a favor. Huan Luo's gaze gradually turned cold as she pointed at Sikong Mu fiercely. Your martial arts were all taught by Master. Master raised you up, don't tell me that he doesn't owe you anything at all. Diao Diao argued. That's right, he did teach me martial arts, but the reason he taught me martial arts was to make me work for him and kill for him. In his eyes, I, Huan Luo, am merely a dog he raised. When did he treat me as a human? He clearly knew that I liked Qi Kanglin and that I could give up anything for Qi Kanglin. But he still made Yao Moen stay and forced Yao Moen to steal away my man. As a fellow holy maiden, what have you, Diao Diao, ever done for the imperial sect? All you do is eat and drink all day, but a useless person like you made him protect you so wholeheartedly. In order to save you, he even gave up his life. If the person who was tied to the ancient tree that day was me, Sikong Mu, would you have saved me? Huan Luo roared out the anger that she had been accumulating for a long time. Her expression was as sinister as a beast's. You were the one who kidnapped Diao Diao that day? Asked Sikong Mu coldly. Even though he had lost his martial arts, the domineering aura Sikong Mu exuded still shook Huan Luo. Chapter 647. That's right. It's me. What, do you want to kill me? Then get up. Huan Luo shouted fiercely. It's Qi Chuan. This sect master was wrong about him. Sikong Mu clenched his fists tightly. His voice was filled with regret and anger. Huan Luo had always thought that in the entire Crimson Flame country, no matter which family's servants were having an affair, they wouldn't be able to escape the sect master's eyes. Now it seems that Huan Luo overestimated the sect master. Yi Hongyi and Qi Chuan had exchanged skins, how could the sect master not know? Huan Luo's words shocked even Diao Diao. You're saying that Yi Hongyi and Qi Chuan exchanged skins? Then wouldn't that Yi Hongyi who died be Qi Chuan? Diao Diao was shocked. Yi Hongyi. Despicable person. Despicable person. Sikong Mu was also shocked by this. If he had known this earlier, he would have taken Yi Hongyi's life back then. Despicable? The word sect master isn't appropriate. From Huan Luo's point of view, it's just a difference in methods. Also, when you're sitting in front of everyone, who cares if your methods are despicable or not? Huan Luo smiled sinisterly at Sikong Mu. She suddenly reached out and took off the golden mask on Sikong Mu's face. You're Prince Consort Jing. Huan Luo was shocked when she saw the face before her. Although it was marred by time, it still looked unparalleled. The man on the couch had a handsome face. His brows were as light as misty rain, and his eyes were misty. He had a high nose bridge and thin lips that looked like pearls. Only the silver hair at the sides of his temples showed that he was past his prime. However, this wasn't what shocked Huan Luo. What shocked her was the star-shaped mark on the man's forehead. All the people of Crimson Flame Country knew that Qi Chuan's younger sister, Princess Jing of Crimson Flame Country and the #1 beauty of Crimson Flame Country, Qi Suxin, was discriminated against by the royal family because she married an outsider. In the end, she was exiled to East Continent with Prince Consort Jing. That Prince Consort Jing was said to be even more beautiful than a woman. The mysterious star-shaped mark on his forehead made him look like a god. Huan Luo. How dare you! The moment his mask was removed, Sikong Mu flew into a rage and instinctively struck out with his palm. However, he did not expect the poison to wreak havoc in his body, and a mouthful of blood suddenly sprayed out from his mouth. So, the sect master of the Crimson Flame Nation was actually Prince Consort Jing from back then. Ha! This was too surprising. If Huan Luo remembers correctly, when Qi Suxin returned to the Crimson Flame Nation, only a pile of bones remained. Moreover, I heard that Qi Suxin had a daughter whose whereabouts are still unknown. As Huan Luo spoke, she looked at Diao Diao meaningfully. Fantasy Vine. Get out. Sikong Mu wiped the blood from the corner of his lips and glared at Huan Luo angrily. No wonder you treat Diao Diao so well. You're still concerned about her safety even at the moment of life and death. Huan Luo couldn't understand what kind of master-disciple relationship you had that would make you risk your life to save Diao Diao. Now Huan Luo understands. Diao Diao is your daughter. She's the daughter of you and Qi Suxin. Beside the bed, Diao Diao looked at Sikong Mu in disbelief. Tears welled up in her eyes. Master. Is what she said true? Diao Diao's hoarse voice was trembling. She looked at Sikong Mu with teary eyes. Diao Diao. Father has let you down. Sikong Mu's words were like a bolt from the blue in Diao Diao's ears. She froze as if she had been petrified. This was clearly a joyous occasion, but Diao Diao did not feel any joy at all. TSK. What a loving father and filial son. However, Huan Luo was not in the mood to watch this. Listen, from now on, you are not allowed to leave this house. In 3 days, our Crimson Flame Nation will kill you, an outsider, and this little bastard on the streets of Luo and Street. Huan Luo sneered at Sikong Mu before she left the house proudly. I didn't know how to explain this to the members of the Crimson Flame Nation. Now, it's fine. How can an outsider become the sect master of the Crimson Flame Nation? You guys stay and watch this saintess. If you let them escape, this saintess will not forgive you. Huan Luo left the Shangri-La, leaving the father and daughter alone in the house. Master. Are you really my father? But why? Why didn't you acknowledge me even though I was by your side all these years? You made me feel like an orphan. Diao Diao crawled to Sikong Mu's side and sobbed. I'm sorry. Father has his reasons. If father's identity is exposed, how can you be the sect master? Sikong Mu stretched out his trembling hand and placed it on Diao Diao's head. His eyes were filled with tears. Could it be that the identity of the sect master is more difficult for you than the identity of father? Diao Diao cried like a little beast. Father doesn't care about the identity of the sect master. Father only wants revenge. Revenge on the people who killed your mother. Sikong Mu's voice turned cold, and a frightening light shone in his eyes. Killed my mother? Who? Who killed my mother? Diao Diao quickly asked as she wiped away the tears in her eyes. It's the lowly people of the entire East Continent and the people of the Red Flame Nation. They forced your mother to die together. The Red Flame Nation couldn't tolerate your mother, and the lowly people of the East Continent were even more shameless. They bullied your mother because she was an outsider and made things difficult for her. Even though my martial arts skills were unparalleled, I couldn't untie the knot in your mother's heart. In the end, she died of depression. At that moment, I swore to the heavens that I would make the people of the Red Flame Nation and the lowly people of the East Continent pay with their blood. Sikong Mu's eyes turned red and his face was as pale as a sheet of paper when he mentioned the past. So you tried everything to provoke the war between the Red Flame Nation and the East Continent just to make them kill each other so that you could avenge your mother? Diao Diao was shocked by Sikong Mu's terrifying idea. That's right. So, I brought you back to the Red Flame Nation and slowly established the Imperial Sect. Finally, the Imperial Sect was above the Imperial Court. After that, I planned to attack the 9 continents step by step. Sikong Mu told her everything without hiding anything. If my mother is watching from heaven, she definitely wouldn't want you to harm the people for her. Diao Diao's tears rolled down her cheeks like pearls from a broken necklace. They fell on the back of Sikong Mu's hand and burned his skin. I don't regret anything I've done until now. The only thing I can't forgive is that I didn't protect you well. Diao Diao, don't worry. No matter what price I have to pay, I won't let them touch you again. Sikong Mu's expression was cold and his eyes were cold. No. Moss. Father, Diao Diao can't tolerate you risking your life to save Diao Diao. Diao Diao has just found me. If you die, what's the point of me living? This time, no matter whether I live or die, Diao Diao won't leave you. Diao Diao, choked with sobs and tears, flowed down her cheeks. She jumped into Sikong Mu's arms and cried bitterly. Okay. Father won't leave you. Never again. Sikong Mu stroked Diao Diao's long hair with heartache. His eyes were misty. When the announcement of the execution of Sikong Mu and Diao Diao was posted, the entire Crimson Flame country was in an uproar. They never expected that the Imperial sect master, whom they revered like a god, was actually an outsider and that the holy maiden Diao Diao was actually the daughter of an outsider. In an instant, the anger of the Crimson Flame country's anti-imperial sect reached its peak. Almost at the same time, Yi Hongyi used Qi Chuan's identity to order Huan Luo to take over the imperial sect. Now, Huan Luo finally became the new sect master of the imperial sect. Furthermore, in order to suppress the people's anti-imperial sect, Yi Hongyi even fabricated a pure bloodline for Huan Luo to appease the people. At this time, Han Jini was wearing strange clothes and mingling in the crowd on Luoan Street. He looked coldly at the announcement on the city wall and his hands gradually clenched into fists. I really didn't expect the sect master to be Prince Consort Jing. This damned outsider, he lied to us for decades, spat a passerby in disgust. Chapter 648. And that Diao Diao, she's actually Princess Jing's daughter. Sigh, since he left, why did he come back? The passerby shook his head in pity. He came back to get revenge. Sikong Mu came to get revenge for Princess Jing. He hates Crimson Flame Country for banishing Princess Jing and causing her to die in a foreign land. This person is so sinister. He almost destroyed Crimson Flame Country. He deserves to die. In the crowd, it was unknown who said this, but the originally restless crowd was immediately stirred up by this sentence. Yes. Kill him. Kill Diao Diao. Han Genie coldly stared at the person who had just shouted the slogan. Seeing him leave the crowd, Han Genie silently turned around and followed him out. When they reached an empty alley, Han Genie suddenly appeared. She grabbed the man and placed her palm on his neck. Where are Sikong Mu and Diao Diao imprisoned? As the city master of 10,000 Imperial City, Han Genie had seen countless people. That person was clearly trying to incite the people to rebel against Sikong Mu. He must have been ordered to do so. I don't know. That person's face was red from Han Genie's grip and his eyes were bloodshot. You want to die? Then this Supreme Lord will help you. Han Genie tightened his grip. At almost the same time, that person hurriedly spat out. They've been imprisoned by Fantasy Vine Flower Sect Master in Paradise. Hero, spare us. That person looked towards Han Genie pleadingly with a face full of fear. It was as Yao Moen had said, any normal person wouldn't be afraid of death. How do we get to Xanadu? Han Genie slightly reduced the strength in her hand. I only know it's behind the main altar, I really don't know anything else. Hero. Before that person could finish, Han Genie had already struck. He couldn't let this person go back to report. Han Genie suddenly recalled the time he met Diao Diao. They had agreed to meet in the forest behind the main altar. If he wasn't wrong, that might be the entrance to paradise. When Yi Junqing, Di Feng, and Feng Yihan woke up, they were already tied up and stuffed into the carriage. Yao Moen was the only one who was still free. How could this be? Di Feng looked towards the three in shock, his eyes filled with doubt. Qi Kanglin has caught up, said Yi Junqing indifferently with a serious expression. I didn't expect it to be all for naught. Feng Yihan couldn't help but shake his head with disappointment in his eyes. Don't think that things are that bad. Maybe there's still a chance. When Yao Moen tried to comfort him, her heart was also lacking confidence. She could feel that this time, Qi Lan was truly angry. Moen, if you can escape, you don't need to worry about us. Yi Junqing looked towards Yao Moen meaningfully. When they were in Xinjiang, he had seen Qi Kanglin's affection for Yao Moen. Based on this affection, Yi Junqing believed that Qi Kanglin wouldn't harm Yao Moen in the slightest. We already said that we would be together forever. Wherever you go, how could Moen not follow? Replied Yao Moen resolutely. At this moment, the carriage suddenly stopped. Where are you going? The city guard stopped the carriage and looked coldly at Qi Kanglin, who was sitting in front of the carriage. Are you blind? You even dare to block this priest's carriage? Qi Kanglin said coldly as he looked at the guard with a sword at his waist. I'm sorry, Great Priest probably hasn't received the decree yet, right? You're no longer a priest of the Imperial Church and you've also been expelled from the Imperial Church by Sect Master Huan Luo. Right now, you're the same as a commoner and must undergo an inspection, said the guard coldly. Since Sikong Mu's identity had been exposed, the Imperial Church's influence in Crimson Flame Country was not as strong as before. Thus, the guard didn't have the slightest bit of respect when facing Qi Kanglin. What did you say? Bing Zhe's voice suddenly rang out. Qi Kanglin used his internal energy to pull the guard in front of him and lifted the guard by the collar with one hand. Ah! Qi Kanglin, how dare you! At almost the same time, all the city guards ran over and surrounded the carriage. Qi Kanglin! Stop! At this moment, the city guard also ran over and roared angrily. Just what happened in the Imperial City? Why are you calling Huan Luo sect master? Qi Kanglin's eyes were sharp as he questioned sternly. So you still don't know that the original Imperial Church Master Sikong Mu was actually Prince Consort Jing back then, an outsider. There's also Diao Diao. She's Princess Jing's daughter, so she can be considered half an outsider. An outsider naturally isn't fit to be the Imperial Church Master, so His Majesty has decreed that Sikong Mu and Diao Diao will be publicly beheaded on the streets of Luo, and in 3 days. It's written clearly on the announcement, you can see for yourself. Also, His Majesty has decreed that from today onwards, no ships are allowed to leave the country. Yi Junqing and the others are wanted. The guard knew how powerful Qi Kanglin was, so his words were still polite. How could this be? Qi Kanglin suddenly let go of the person in his hand. With a wave of his hand, the announcement landed in Qi Kanglin's hand. The contents were exactly the same as what the guard had said. When he saw that Sikong Mu and Diao Diao would be beheaded in 3 days, Qi Kanglin's brows furrowed and his eyes turned cold. Qi Kanglin, I hope you can cooperate with us. Men, search the carriage. The guard gave the order and all the guards immediately moved forward. Just as the guards were about to lift the curtain, they suddenly felt their bodies float in the air and then they were thrown several meters away. Qi Kanglin. You're trying to rebel. Men, seize him. When the guard saw Qi Kanglin's resistance, he immediately ordered a counterattack. Qi Kanglin had no intention of getting entangled. With a wave of his sleeves, he swept away the guards charging at him and drove off. Qi Kanglin only stopped when they reached a secluded forest. Before Qi Kanglin could speak, Yao Moen had already lifted the curtain. Moen clearly heard what the guards said earlier. I didn't expect that in just a few days, the capital would actually change. Qi Chuan is in power and Huan Luo has become the sect master. Kanglin, this matter isn't as simple as you think. If you agree, we want to return to the capital with you to investigate the truth. Inside the carriage, the guard's words had shocked Yao Moen to no end. However, at almost the same time, Yao Moen also knew that her chance had come. Moreover, even if they escaped now, it was impossible for them to leave Crimson Flame Country. When Qi Kanglin remained silent, Yao Moen continued. Kanglin, even if you want to bring us back to hand us over to Sikong Mu, the prerequisite is that Sikong Mu is still alive. You also heard that in 3 days, Qi Chuan is going to execute Sikong Mu and Diao Diao. Now that we're willing to go back with you, what are you still hesitating for? Moreover, Diao Diao owes Moen a favor, so Moen won't let her die in vain. Yao Moen looked towards Sikong Mu solemnly. All right. Qi Kanglin, who had been silent for a long time, finally nodded. He turned around and unsealed the trio's acupoints. When Yao Moen saw this, her lips curved in a faint smile. Yao Moen, when we return to the capital this time, if Sect Master doesn't let Yi Junqing and the others go, Kanglin. Before Qi Kanglin could finish, Yao Moen immediately took over. When we return to the capital this time, life and death are up to fate. No matter what the result is, Moen won't resent anyone. Yao Moen knew what Qi Kanglin wanted to say, so she spoke resolutely. We can't take the official roads right now. If we take the small roads, it'll take at least 2.5 days to reach the capital. Sit tight. Qi Kanglin didn't say anything else. He immediately pulled on the reins and headed straight for the capital. When Han Genie killed his way through and finally entered the paradise, Diao Diao's shock was indescribable. Genie? Didn't you already leave? Diao Diao looked towards Han Genie in disbelief, her eyes instantly misty. Without you here, how could Genie bear to leave? It's a good thing that Genie came back. I didn't think that slut Huan Luo would actually torture you to this extent. When Han Genie saw the marks on Diao Diao's arm, his anger was instantly ignited. You shouldn't have come back. Every cell in Diao Diao's body was filled with happiness. She never dreamed that Han Genie would come back to find her. Chapter 649. Now isn't the time to talk about this. I'll bring you guys away. Han Genie walked to the bed and reached out to carry Sikong Mu on his back. Han Genie, this is the first time we've met and I'm very satisfied with your performance. But now, I can't become your burden. Genie, please take good care of Diao Diao. Hurry and leave. Sikong Mu knew very well that if he was brought along, there was no chance of Diao Diao and Han Genie leaving. No. Diao Diao just had father, how could she bear to part with you? If father doesn't leave, Diao Diao won't leave either. Diao Diao stubbornly hugged Sikong Mu's arm with a resolute gaze. Let's go together. Han Genie didn't wait for Sikong Mu to refuse. He reached out to carry Sikong Mu on his back. Right at this moment, a gust of cold wind blew from behind. Han Genie knew the situation was bad and immediately turned around to block the other's attack. Pfft! Han Genie felt a fishy and salty taste rush up his throat and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. I really didn't think that the duck that flew away would come back on its own. Han Genie, you're overestimating yourself. You think you can save them? Huan Luo walked into the building with a sinister smile. Her red lips curled up into a disgusted smile. Genie. How are you? Diao Diao immediately walked up when she saw that Han Genie was injured. Don't worry, he won't die. As Huan Luo sneered, Yi Hengyi walked in leisurely. Han Genie, I really didn't think that you would fall into our hands so quickly. Since you're back, then what about Yi Junqing and the others? Did they come back as well? Where is he? Yi Hengyi purposely emphasized the last word, his gaze cold. Qi Chuan, you're worse than a dog. Sikong Mu and Diao Diao are your family, how could you be so heartless? As for the whereabouts of Yi Junqing and the others, do you think the Supreme Lord would tell you, said Han Genie coldly. Genie, he's not Qi Chuan, he's Yi Hengyi, shouted Diao Diao angrily. Yi Hengyi. You actually didn't die. Han Genie looked at Yi Hengyi in astonishment, her face filled with disbelief. What? Is it so hard for you to accept the fact that we didn't die? Yi Hengyi looked at Han Genie's stunned expression, and the corners of his lips curved into a cold smile. Your Majesty, what should we do with Han Genie? Huan Luo asked coldly. We will put up the notice. In 2 days, the city lord of Eastern Continent's myriad imperial city, Han Genie, will also be executed along with Sikong Mu and Diao Diao. Do you think that Yi Junqing and the others will just watch with folded arms once this news gets out? Yi Hengyi's smile became even more sinister. Good plan. At that time, this sect master will definitely give Yao Mo1 a big present. Ha ha. Ever since she had taken over the imperial sect, Huan Luo's dark side had been rapidly magnified. Especially when Qi Kanglin had abandoned her, it had twisted her heart to the extreme. At this moment, Huan Luo's heart was already filled with hatred and revenge. She had completely lost all reason. After Huan Luo and Yi Hengyi left, Diao Diao caressed Han Genie's chest with heartache as tears streamed down her face. You fool, why did you come back? Didn't I tell you to leave? Diao Diao caressed Han Genie's bloodied lips with heartache as her tears fell like rain. Even if I die with you, it's still better than Genie leaving alone. Genie wouldn't be able to survive in a world without you. Han Geni's words caused Sikong Mu to involuntarily shudder. Does it have to be so mushy? Sikong Mu slowly lay down on the couch and closed his eyes. At the time, he couldn't bear to see the little princess he had protected since she was young throw herself into another man's embrace, so he had instinctively felt hostility towards Han Geni. But now, when he saw that Han Geni had actually taken the risk to barge into a paradise for Diao Diao, Qi Kanglan finally felt relieved. A grown girl couldn't be kept at home. Now that Diao Diao had found such a home, he felt at ease. Father. When Sikong Mu said this, Diao Diao immediately burrowed out of Han Geni's embrace and looked towards Sikong Mu with a red face. 2 days passed by in the blink of an eye. When Qi Kanglan brought Yao Moan and the others back to the imperial city, he finally understood the severity of the situation. Currently, almost everyone in the imperial city was cursing Sikong Mu. Even Diao Diao wasn't spared. Furthermore, although the imperial sect had a sect master, its power wasn't as great as before. The current Qi Chuan had become the symbol of power in Crimson Flame Country. Genie. When Yao Moan saw the announcement that Han Geni had been killed, her heart trembled. It was clear that Han Geni had definitely gone to save Diao Diao and ended up being caught. This isn't the place to talk. Let's return to the secret room first and plan for tomorrow. Yi Junqing noticed that there were people secretly spying on them in the crowd, so he immediately lowered his voice and reminded them. With Yi Junqing's reminder, Yao Moan's group of 5 left the crowd and headed towards where Yi Junqing had been hiding. Where are those suspicious people? At the corner, the black-clothed people who had followed them looked around blankly, but they couldn't see Yi Junqing's group. Over here. A cold voice rang out from above them. Yi Junqing, Qi Kanglan, and the others seemed to have descended from the sky and landed in front of the black-clothed people, taking their lives in one move. Strip them of their clothes, they'll be useful tomorrow. As Yi Junqing spoke, he had already ripped off the black-clothed person's clothes. Then he tossed the black-clothed person's corpse into a corner. The next day, the sky had just begun to brighten, but the streets of Luoan were already packed with people. Everyone's faces were filled with unconcealable excitement. In their eyes, Sikong Mu was a god. To be able to see a god being beheaded was a rare occurrence in 100 years. Most of them had come in the middle of the night to get a clearer view. Sect Master sent you guys? Yi Junqing lay on the roof and looked at the 2 black-clothed people beside him as he asked this in a low voice. Sure. Sect Master was certain that Yi Junqing and Qi Kanglan would come to kidnap people, so he set up an inescapable net. You didn't know. Just as the black-clothed people reacted, Yi Junqing abruptly waved his hand and the silver needles in his sleeve pierced the 2 black-clothed people's death acupuncture points. At almost the same time, Feng Yihan, Di Feng, and Qi Kanglan also finished dealing with the black-clothed people who were lying in ambush at the most important spots on the streets of Luoan. As for Yao Moan, she was waiting in the carriage outside the city gates. Once they rescued people, they had to leave the imperial capital immediately. They're here. A sharp-eyed person shouted, and the commoners immediately went into an uproar. They saw 3 heavily guarded prisoner carriages slowly walking over. Sikong Mu was sitting on the wooden prisoner carriage. He was dressed in black robes and the mask on his face was no longer there. When the commoners saw the star imprint on his forehead, they instantly became furious. It really is Prince Consort Jing. Hit him. It was very clear that the person causing trouble right now was a spy that Huan Luo had arranged. Bullshit, Sect Master, he's just a lowly outsider. Since someone dared to start cursing, there was no need to fear that there wouldn't be others who would follow suit. The cursing gradually grew louder. Perhaps everyone thought that this wasn't enough to vent their anger, but suddenly, an egg flew through the air and hit Sikong Mu in the face. The egg skin shattered and the egg yolk and egg white flowed down Sikong Mu's face. Following that, a large pile of vegetables and stones flew towards Sikongmu. "You're not allowed to hit my father. You bastards!" Diao Diao shouted angrily when she saw Sikongmu being bullied. This shout didn't matter, but the commoners who couldn't reach Sikongmu immediately turned their attention to Diao Diao. The dirty vegetables wrapped around Diao Diao, and there was no lack of rotten food among them. Her heart suddenly turned completely cold. There was no lack of people among these commoners whom she had sincerely helped before, but now, their faces made Diao Diao feel disgusted. The world was fickle and people's hearts were no longer what they used to be. Crimson Flame Country no longer had any place for her to stay. Chapter 650. Diao Diao. Han Genie could only clench his fists when he saw Diao Diao being humiliated. When they got to the end of Luoan Street, the guards pulled Sikongmu and the other two out of the prison carriage and forced them to stand side by side on the temporary execution ground. "Genie, I'm sorry, it was Diao Diao who implicated you. If there's a next life, Diao Diao will do anything to repay this life of yours." Diao Diao didn't cry. She didn't want those cold commoners to see her weak side because they weren't worthy. How could Genie bear to do anything for you? Genie only wants to be able to officially marry you as my wife in my next life. Han Genie looked towards Diao Diao deeply. He didn't regret coming back. "Father, Diao Diao is very happy to know that I'm not an orphan before I die." Diao Diao turned to look towards Sikongmu as tears welled up in her eyes. In the restaurant closest to the execution ground, Yi Hongyi and Huan Luo stood side by side. "You think Qi Kanglin will appear?" Yi Hongyi looked around coldly but didn't notice anything. "He owes Sikongmu a favor, so he'll definitely come. As for Yi Junqing and the others, this sect master can't guarantee that." Huan Luo looked towards Yi Hongyi and replied indifferently. "With Han Genie here, they will definitely come. It's just that, we are truly very curious as to what method they will use to rescue these three people from our inescapable net." Yi Hongyi's thin lips were tightly pursed as a cold light flashed in the depths of his eyes. "This sect master feels that your majesty is being too paranoid. In reality, there's no need to use your backup plan." Huan Luo looked towards the three people on the execution ground confidently. "Paranoid? Perhaps. But I would rather be a little more suspicious than do anything that I would regret. Let's wait and see." After exchanging several blows with Yao Moan, Yi Hongyi knew that Yao Moan was good at making strange moves. Even though he had made all the preparations, he still left himself a backup plan. After seeing Yi Hongyi's instructions, the officials in charge of the execution ground abruptly stood up and threw down the execution slip. The three burly executioners received the order and immediately drank a mouthful of strong alcohol. They sprayed the alcohol onto their machetes and then raised their machetes. At the moment of life and death, Diao Diao turned to look at Han Genie, then looked at Sikongmu beside her. To be able to die together with the two most important men in her life, Diao Diao had no regrets in this life. Just as the executioner was about to slash down with his knife, an explosion suddenly sounded not far away from the execution ground. Then, several arrow-bursting rats fell around the execution ground like a disaster. A huge cloud of black smoke instantly turned the day into night. The sudden turn of events terrified the onlookers. They were originally just watching the show, but now they were scared and fled in all directions like madmen. Cough cough. How dare you? Kill them. Don't let any of them escape. Smoke filled the air, causing people's eyes to burn with pain. Yi Hongyi's clenched fist smashed fiercely on the railing, his eyes filled with bloodthirsty killing intent. How did they do it? Huan Luo was shocked when she saw the black fog filling the sky. Yi Junqing. Yao Moan. I'm not done with you. Kill. Even at such a close distance, Yi Hongyi couldn't clearly see what was happening at the execution ground. Thus, Yi Hongyi abruptly stamped his feet and charged straight towards the execution ground. In her shock, Huan Luo also leaped over. The moment Yi Hongyi and Huan Luo landed on the execution ground, their hearts went cold. The three people lying on the ground were clearly the executioners who had just been about to carry out the execution. Sikong Mu and the others were nowhere to be seen. Damn it! Yi Hongyi roared fiercely, his eyes completely bloodshot. It seems this sect master has underestimated them. Men, chase after them. Huan Luo's expression was also unsightly and her voice was filled with unconcealable anger. Outside the city gates, two carriages that had been prepared beforehand had already sped off. Inside the carriage, Han Jini held Diao Diao in his arms as he lovingly wiped away the dirt on her face. Diao Diao, Genie is useless. I actually watched as so many people bullied you but I couldn't do anything. Han Genie used his sleeve to stroke Diao Diao's face, his eyes filled with regret. What does this have to do with you? It's all Huan Luo and Yi Hongyi, those two bastards' fault. Diao Diao also helped Han Genie wipe away the dirt. Yi Hongyi. You're talking about Yi Hongyi? On the other side of the carriage, Yao Moen's gaze turned cold and her voice changed. That's right, Qi Chuan is already dead. Right now, that Crimson Flame Emperor is Yi Hongyi in disguise. He's changed his skin. Han Genie looked towards Yao Moen solemnly, his gaze serious. Moen was just saying, how could a beast like him, who can't even be poisoned to death, die so easily? Alright, since he didn't die, Moen will make him regret living to the end. Yao Moen's gaze was like ice as she gritted her teeth. Because of her anger, her body was trembling. Moen, do you think we still have a chance to counterattack? Asked Diao Diao when she saw Yao Moen's ruthless words. Where there's a will, there's a way. Moen will definitely think of a way to make him die a horrible death, replied Yao Moen coldly. It seemed like she was replying to Diao Diao but in reality, she was talking to herself. The two carriages stopped at a side garden not far from the imperial city. After Yao Moen helped Diao Diao off the carriage, Qi Kanglin also helped Sikong Mu off the carriage. Don't worry, this is Kanglin's side garden. In all of Crimson Flame Country, besides Kanglin, no one else knows of this place and no one will find this place. Sect Master, are you alright? As Qi Kanglin spoke, he seemed to feel Sikong Mu tremble slightly and asked worriedly. I'm fine. Sikong Mu nodded slightly, his voice growing weaker. Father. Diao Diao will help you. Ever since she found out that Sikong Mu was her father, Diao Diao hated that she couldn't stay by Sikong Mu's side every single second. Right now, Yi Hongyi is definitely looking for us like crazy. It's good to lie low for a while. Yao Moen suppressed the anger in her heart and said this calmly. Thus, the group entered the side garden one after another. During dinner, when Yao Moen revealed that Qi Chuan was Yi Hongyi, everyone's faces were filled with unwillingness and hatred. I didn't think that Yi Hongyi would still be alive. Yi Juanqing's brows were tightly furrowed. The anger in his chest was like the lava of hell and an indescribable hatred filled every single one of Yi Juanqing's nerves. I knew that he wouldn't die so easily, but I didn't think that he would actually dare to kill Qi Chuan. This person is truly sinister. Qi Kanglin was also extremely shocked. If Yi Hongyi isn't eliminated, we won't be able to leave. Instead of running around, it's better to think of a way to kill that beast, said Feng Yihan solemnly. Right now, Yi Hongyi is disguised as Qi Chuan and has control over all of Crimson Flame Country's military. Adding on Huan Luo's evil deeds, it won't be easy to kill him, said Yao Moen calmly. How about this, everyone rest first. This matter needs to be discussed at length, suggested Han Jini when he saw that Diao Diao was growing weaker. That's fine. There are no servants here, so you have to prepare your own meals. Everyone, just make do with it. Qi Kanglin's words actually made Yao Moen and the others feel a trace of safety. That night, Yao Moen tossed and turned, unable to sleep. She walked out of her room alone and walked to the long hallway before slowly sitting down. The wind picked up and a chill entered her heart. Yao Moen couldn't help but shiver and a long robe fell over her shoulders. Junqing. You didn't sleep either. When Yao Moen saw that it was Yi Junqing, the coldness in her eyes disappeared and a smile spread from the corners of her eyes to the corners of her lips. It's good that Yi Hongyi didn't die. This gives us a chance to kill him. Moen, don't worry. No matter what price we have to pay, Junqing will definitely kill him. Yi Junqing knew what Yao Moen was thinking and said this confidently. Yi Hongyi deserves to die, but he isn't worth us paying any price. Junqing, after all this, Moen finally understands that there are things in this world that are more important than revenge. Yao Moen looked towards Yi Junqing with clear eyes. Her voice was clear like rain pattering on celadon. What? Asked Yi Junqing in confusion. To live peacefully. When the wind blows away the dust and the fragrance of flowers fades away, you'll still be by my side, complete and whole. Under the moonlight, her sparkling and translucent eyes looked ethereal and beautiful, so beautiful that it made one sigh. Yi Junqing swallowed hard and did his best to force back the tears that were about to burst out of his eyes. He gently cupped Yao Moen's face and kissed her. In the darkness, a plain white figure stood silently. Her heart seemed to have been hollowed out and the loneliness in her eyes made one's heart ache. That head of white hair rippled in the night wind, exuding the vicissitudes of a beautiful immortal. When the wind blows away the dust and the fragrance of flowers fades away, the water empties. Moen, what does that Kanglin count as? The next day, when Yao Moen was still unconscious, she suddenly heard a burst of hurried footsteps outside. What happened? Yao Moen opened her eyes and got up to put on her clothes. She was shocked to see Yi Junqing rushing in. We've been surrounded, hurry and leave with me. As Yi Junqing spoke, he took Yao Moen's hand and rushed out of the room. At this time, Qi Kanglin and the others were already waiting in the courtyard. How did we get surrounded? Didn't you say that no one would know? Diao Diao looked towards Qi Kanglin suspiciously. I don't know, but they have a lot of people. If we really fight, we might not be able to break out. Yi Junqing, there's a secret passage at the back of the courtyard. Take Moen and the others and leave. I'll stay here. Qi Kanglin hesitated for a moment, then said resolutely. No. If we leave together. They haven't charged in yet, right? There's still time to leave. Yao Moen hadn't expected Qi Kanglin to say something like this and immediately denied it. That's right, how could we leave you behind? Whether it's Yi Hongyi or Huan Luo, they both hate you to death. If you fall into their hands, would you still be able to live? Diao Diao knew Huan Luo's jealousy the best. If she couldn't obtain a man, she would rather destroy him than let someone else obtain him. If we don't stop them, they'll quickly find the secret passage. At that time, none of us will be able to escape. If I stay, I can at least exchange for your safety. This is worth it. Yi Junqing. What are you waiting for? Take them and leave. If we get captured together, who else will save us? Qi Kanglin urged when he sensed the approaching danger. You, take care. Yi Junqing knew that Qi Kanglin's words made sense. Of everyone present, only Qi Kanglin had the ability to resist for a while. Moen, let's go. Just as Yi Junqing was about to pull Yao Moen, he saw that Yao Moen had already walked in front of Qi Kanglin. Kanglin, Moen will definitely come back to save you after leaving. Wait for me. Yao Moen choked with sobs as endless guilt surged from the bottom of her heart. She knew that if Qi Kanglin wanted to leave, those good-for-nothings outside wouldn't be able to stop him. Qi Kanglin had only stayed behind to give them more time to leave. Kanglin will wait for you. Qi Kanglin nodded slightly, then leaped up and shot towards the courtyard like an arrow leaving a bow. As Yao Moan watched Qi Kanglin's resolute figure leave, she felt an indescribable pain in her heart. When Yi Junqing saw the sorrow and pain in Yao Moan's eyes, he knew that in Yao Moan's heart, Qi Kanglin wasn't an insignificant passerby. Chapter 651. Moan, don't let down Kanglin's intentions. Yi Junqing slowly walked to Yao Moan's side and held her hand tightly. Yao Moan knew that there was no time to lose, so she left the courtyard through the secret passage. Just as Yi Junqing's group disappeared, Huan Luo finally appeared in front of Qi Kanglin with several hundred imperial children. Qi Kanglin, long time no see. Huan Luo had mixed feelings as she looked at the white-haired man in front of her. Just a little bit more and she would have been able to fly side by side with this man. If I could choose, this priest would never want to see you again, said Qi Kanglin coldly. The coldness in his eyes caused Huan Luo's heart to tremble. That's right, how could she have forgotten that the only person left in Qi Kanglin's heart was Yao Moan? What a heartless sentence. Qi Kanglin, Huan Luo, have silently guarded you for more than 20 years, but I can't compare to a lowly commoner of Eastern continent. You want to protect her, right? Fine. Huan Luo will let you personally watch how Yao Moan dies, shouted Huan Luo fiercely. Her sinister expression completely covered up her beauty. With a wave of Huan Luo's hand, several hundred imperial children rushed into the courtyard. Qi Kanglin slowly rose from the ground like a god, a cold frost sword in his hand. This battle lasted for a full 10 hours. During these 10 hours, the imperial sect's children surged forward like a swarm of bees, and then retreated again and again. The result of this battle was that Qi Kanglin was exhausted, and Huan Luo found an opportunity to take advantage of. In the end, Huan Luo sealed all the acupoints in his body. Without Qi Kanglin's obstruction, the remaining imperial children turned the courtyard upside down and finally found the secret passage. Damn it! Huan Luo finally understood Qi Kanglin's intentions and angrily turned to walk in front of him. You're stalling for time. Huan Luo glared at Qi Kanglin. Qi Kanglin silently closed his eyes and didn't look at the woman again. You! Huan Luo suddenly raised her arm but couldn't bear to slap him. Take her away. Qi Kanglin, Huan Luo wants to see just how much Yao Moan can do for you when you're in a life and death situation. If she's willing to die for you, then Huan Luo will give up. Huan Luo pursed her lips and left with a flick of her sleeve. Moan, are you really willing to die for Kanglin? Qi Kanglin's thin lips evoked a hint of bitterness. How could it be? Right now, the entire Crimson Flame country was pasted with wanted posters for Yao Mo Wan and the others, so Yao Mo Wan and the others had no choice but to take the mountain roads. It had been 2 days since they had left the secret passage. Diao Diao had led them to the outskirts of Yi Prefecture. According to Diao Diao, no one knew about the ship she had hidden in Yi Prefecture, so as long as they found the ship, they would have a chance to escape. Even if they had to escape to Penglai Island, it would be fine. With the current situation, they had no way of fighting Yi Hongyi. But to everyone's surprise, less than half an hour after Diao Diao's group arrived at the hiding place, the garrison general of Yi Commandery led hundreds of soldiers to surround them. How could this be? How is this possible? Looking at the soldiers in front of them, Diao Diao couldn't believe it. This place was extremely well hidden. If no one had led them here, it would have been impossible for them to find this place. Now is not the time to discuss this. Jingyi, protect Diao Diao. Emperor Xia, Emperor Qi, you two protect Sikongmu. Moan, follow behind me. We're going to charge out. With soldiers in front and no path of retreat behind, Yi Junqing and the others could only fight to the death. However, all of them knew that they didn't have absolute confidence in winning this battle. Junqing. Yao Mo Wan wanted to say something to Yi Junqing, but he cut her off. Moan, don't say anything about leaving first. Junqing will never abandon you and leave by myself. Yi Junqing gripped Yao Mo Wan's hand tightly, then abruptly unsheathed the sword at his waist. At this time, the several hundred soldiers in front of them had already charged over. Just as everyone was about to fight with their lives on the line, someone suddenly shouted. Stop! Prefectural General Wang Yi waved his hand when he heard this. When he turned his head, he clearly saw the prefectural governor walking over. This subordinate kowtows in salute to prefectural governor Darren. When Wang Yi saw the prefectural governor walk over, he immediately knelt down on one knee. Disgraceful! His Majesty has decreed to capture them alive, so what are you doing? Throw away all your weapons. Throw them all away for this official. The prefectural governor roared loudly. The soldiers looked at each other in dismay, then at Wang Yi. If they threw away their weapons, how were they supposed to fight? Darren, even if they're captured alive, there's no need to throw away their weapons, right? Suggested Wang Yi humbly. Bullshit. If they're injured, how am I supposed to explain this to His Majesty? Bingxin, go persuade them to surrender. Tell them not to resist stubbornly. The prefectural governor glared at the guard beside him and harumphed. Yes. After receiving the order, the guard hurriedly ran over. You guys should just surrender. Master, I'm Leng Bingxin. We've come to save you. The person who came was none other than Leng Bingxin, who Yao Mo Wan had left behind in Stone Dock Town. When Yao Mo Wan heard this, she suddenly felt that the heavens would always leave a way out. She was overjoyed, but her mouth was also full of words. Fine. We're at a dead end, so we have no intention of running away. If you guys treat us well with good food and drinks, how about we surrender? Yao Mo Wan deliberately raised her voice so that Wang Yi could hear her. I heard you. Isn't this good? Subduing the enemy without fighting is the best strategy. How can you be a garrison general? Bingxin, bring them and follow this official. The person who spoke was none other than Gue Daozi, who had left Crimson Flame Country alone to find Leng Bingxin. Meanwhile, Gue Daozi and Leng Bingxin had brought Yao Mo Wan and the others out of the outskirts. Even after they were far away, Wang Yi was still standing in the same spot. He had clearly suffered a blow. In an inn near the bottom of the mountain, Gue Daozi finally settled everyone down. Is this inn safe? Diao Diao still had lingering fears from what had happened earlier. How could a place where even birds don't shit be safe? Gue Daozi was unconvinced. Moen still feels like there's something very fishy about this. Back at the villa, Qi Kanglin said very clearly that no one else knew about that place and there wasn't even a single servant there. How did Huan Luo find it? Also, Diao Diao said that the place where the ships were hidden was very well hidden, but we were still surrounded. What do you guys think? Yao Mo Wan calmed down. She still felt like there was something wrong. Junqing also feels that it's strange. It feels like there's a pair of eyes staring at us the entire time, said Yi Junqing. You mean, you suspect that there's a mole among us? Di Feng naturally understood the meaning behind Yao Mo Wan and Yi Junqing's words. That's not very possible. There shouldn't be anyone among us who doesn't want to escape from Crimson Flame Country. Everyone here is either Yi Hengyi's mortal enemy or Huan Luo's mortal enemy. If there's a mole, Yihan really can't guess who it is. Feng Yihan looked around at everyone and felt that this was inconceivable. Master, as soon as Bingxin arrived in Crimson Flame Country, she saw that there were wanted posters everywhere. It was clearly written that Sheng Wan, is Yao Moen. Master, you really made it hard for Bingxin to find you. When Leng Bingxin, who had just found out the truth, saw Yao Moen, tears welled up in her eyes. Damned girl, you also made it hard for this old man to find you, said Gue Daozi when he saw Leng Bingxin's tear-stained appearance. Thankfully Moen recovered her memories, otherwise I would have disappointed everyone's good intentions. Yao Moen smiled and pulled Ling Bingxin to her side. Then what do we do now? It's definitely impossible to leave. Right now, all the docks in Crimson Flame Country only allow ships to enter, not out to sea. Ling Bingxin wiped away her tears and looked towards Yao Moen worriedly. Right now, the most important thing is to figure out why Yi Hongyi knows our whereabouts at all times. Yao Moen frowned, her gaze grave. Ahem. If this old man tells you the reason, what kind of repayment can you give this old man? Said Gue Daozi proudly when he saw everyone's worried expressions. You know. Yao Moen lifted her brows and looked towards Gue Daozi. Of course. Gue Daozi snorted. Then what kind of repayment do you want? Yao Moen looked towards the old man in front of her solemnly. It's very simple, this old man wants Ling Bingxin to take over the ghost sect. To become the next sect master of the ghost sect, said Gue Daozi confidently. Gue Daozi swore solemnly. He had begged Ling Bingxin for a long time, but Ling Bingxin wouldn't agree no matter what. She even insisted on returning to Eastern Continent. This time, if it weren't for that Ben Lei agreeing to search for Yi Juanqing's whereabouts, Ling Bingxin really wouldn't have come back with him. Of course, Gue Daozi also knew that Ling Bingxin wasn't a heartless person. She had even said that she wanted him to stay in Eastern Continent to take care of him when he died, but he was still so young. Wasn't this girl thinking too much? Gue Daozi sighed inwardly. I agree. Before Yao Moen could speak, Ling Bingxin had already expressed her stance. This made Gue Daozi extremely astonished. Didn't you disagree before? Gue Daozi was pleasantly surprised, but he also felt a little hurt. He had taught Ling Bingxin so many things, but in the end, he couldn't compare to Yao Moen's position in her heart. Didn't you have no conditions before? What are you wasting time for? Are you going to say it or not? Ling Bingxin urged. If there was a mole between them, then they would be in danger at all times. Ling Bingxin naturally understood the stakes, so she readily agreed. Ahem, the mole is him. Gue Daozi coughed lightly, then pointed at Sikong Mu who had been sitting there without saying anything for a long time. You're slandering me. How could father be the mole? Diao Diao immediately panicked when she saw Gue Daozi pointing at her father. That's right, Sect Master Gue, if Yi Hongyi and Huan Luo hadn't joined hands, Sect Master Sikong wouldn't have ended up like this. Don't you think you should seriously reconsider? Han Jini also felt that Gue Daozi's suspicions were unreasonable. Don't be impatient, let this old man finish first. If this person is Sikong Mu, then he really hates Yi Hongyi and Huan Luo to the bone, so he naturally wouldn't be the mole. But what if this person isn't? Gue Daozi looked at Sikong Mu meaningfully, a cold light flashing in the depths of his eyes. When everyone heard this, they subconsciously looked at Sikong Mu. Gue Daozi, don't talk nonsense. Diao Diao, father has raised you for more than 20 years. Even if everyone can admit to being wrong, you can't. Sikong Mu looked at Gue Daozi angrily, then looked at Diao Diao as if asking for help. Gue Daozi, master has also raised you for more than 20 years. Don't forget that master taught you how to change your skin. How dare you show off in front of me? You're still too inexperienced. Bingxin. Gue Daozi snorted and looked at Sikong Mu before calling out to Ling Bingxin. Ling Bingxin understood tacitly and immediately took out a blue glass bottle from her sleeve. Without saying anything, she uncorked the bottle and splashed the bottle at Gue Daozi's face. No. Of course, Gue Daozi knew what Ling Bingxin splashed. He immediately covered his face with both hands and retreated. Unfortunately, he was one step too late. Gue Daozi's face was changing at a speed visible to the naked eye until his face turned from Sikong Mu to Gue Daozi. You're Gue Daozi. Then where's my father? Bastard! Give me back my father. Seeing that Gue Daozi was standing in front of her, Diao Diao dashed forward, grabbed Gue Daozi's collar with both hands and pinned him to the wall. You can't expose me. You can't. Gue Daozi could not hide the fear and worry in his eyes when he saw that he was exposed. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.